Welcome to my channel, guys. If you're looking for an amazing novel, visit my Patreon page. Your support will help turn this story into an exciting audiobook. Join me on this journey. Chapter 61, Aftermath. Emerging with a solemn grace from the lunar shadows, three colossal figures materialized, their imposing forms marred by the fiery aftermath of a catastrophic event. The remnants of their once mighty ships blazed in the cold vacuum of space, casting an eerie glow on the battle-worn behemoths. The destruction wrought upon one of the vessels was not only extensive but beyond the realm of recovery. It bore the scars of a cosmic turmoil that left no room for hope in restoration. The skeletal remains of the ship stood as a somber reminder of the fierce confrontation it endured. In contrast, the other two ships appeared as enigmatic canvases of ruin, where the extent of damage eluded immediate comprehension. Twisted metal and fragmented remnants hinted at the violent ballet they engaged in during the chaotic battle. Yet, amidst the uncertainty, faint sparks flickered, suggesting the possibility of hidden stories within the battered hulls. The blazing feather, standing as a wounded sentinel in the vastness of space, bore the scars of a harrowing encounter. The once proud frigate, now a testament to survival, hovered in the aftermath of the battle. Its escort, a loyal companion in the skirmish, shared the burden of inflicted wounds. Within the ship's battered corridors, the echoes of struggle lingered, marked by fallen crew members who sacrificed themselves in the throes of combat. Explosions and the crackle of fire served as haunting reminders of the desperate skirmishes that played out within the ship's confines. On the bridge, the dim glow of emergency lights cast an eerie ambience as Inquisitor Ganus absorbed the grim reports from his remaining men. His countenance, unwavering in its stoicism, betrayed the toll of the recent ordeal. His gaze fixed upon the holographic representation of Feridres, where data streams relayed the final moments of the planet's ordeal. The message brought a bittersweet sense of relief. The tyrannid threat had been vanquished. Yet, the Inquisitor's demeanor spoke of deeper concern. The alliance that had momentarily united the Imperium and the Syans now hung in the balance, and uncertainty loomed over the fractured cosmic alliance. "Milord, a message from the space station has been received. The Syans are requesting an audience." Ganus received the officer's report. A subtle grimace crossed his features. The prospect of facing the Syans in a meeting was not one he relished. His thoughts danced between the desire to postpone any encounter and the practical necessity of addressing the dire condition of the blazing feather. "He wouldn't let me get away in peace, isn't he?" Ganus thought to himself with bitterness. "Still, I can't avoid them forever," he mused, acknowledging the inevitable confrontation that awaited. The urgency of repairs, coupled with the incapacitated state of the frigate, pushed the Inquisitor into a pragmatic mindset. "Prepare the wounded for transfer to the station," he commanded, his voice carrying the weight of authority. "Conduct a thorough assessment of the ship's damage. I need a clear picture of what we're dealing with." Stepping away from the bridge, Ganus ventured into the damaged corridors, eyeing the remnants of a vessel that had weathered the storm. The scars on the blazing feather mirrored the internal turmoil within the Inquisitor's mind, torn between practical necessity and the unspoken tension of impending diplomatic dealings with the Syans. In the desolate expanse of Redena, akin to what Ganus witnessed, Bann trod a path mirroring despair. The once majestic city lay in shattered remnants, a ghostly echo of its former decadent opulence. Towers crumbled, streets marred by debris, and a vast expanse of land reduced to ruins cast an oppressive pallor upon the surroundings, as if the very earth mourned its own demise. The populace, now mere specters of vitality, bore the weight of profound loss, families torn asunder, possessions and dreams obliterated in the relentless onslaught. Survival, a hollow triumph in the face of abject devastation, set the stage for the grueling aftermath. Seated upon the Sene's Chal throne, Bann absorbed the grim tidings as Agrippa, with a voice heavy with trepidation, delivered reports that portended a protracted agony for Redena's once fertile grounds. "Decades shall pass ere this scarred land regains its former vitality, if indeed it ever does," Agrippa intoned, his gaze fixed upon documents that foretold a tale of ecological decay. A palpable tension enveloped the assembly, each word hanging like a shroud. Agrippa, his hands trembling, drew attention to a more insidious aspect of the tyrannid scourge. Beyond the horde's sheer numbers, insidious microorganisms and predatory fauna accompany their invasion, unleashing devastation upon the very fabric of the planet, he declared, leaving the room steeped in a somber hush. As the gaze of the assembly shifted from Agrippa's troubled countenance to the faces of comrades, the unspoken understanding lingered. The tyrannids, a festering malign ants, would not merely ravage and depart, they would entrench themselves, inexorably gnawing at Redena's essence, reducing it to primal desolation. The grandeur of the city's past now obscured by the shadow of impending doom. Feridres, once a thriving feudal realm, now lay ensnared in the cold clutches of death, a somber epitaph etched across its desolate expanse. The reservoirs, tainted by the insidious touch of the tyrannids, threatened to be a slow poison, albeit one overshadowed by the colossal toll exacted upon 3/3 of our planetary kin. "The specter of imminent water scarcity looms, demanding our vigilance against the encroaching contamination," voiced Agrippa, the gravity of the situation etched upon his countenance. The loss, vast and unfathomable, manifested in the ghostly silence that followed. Despite earnest attempts at evacuation, millions defiantly clung to Feridres, choosing a fate entwined with the planet's tragic demise. A macabre ballet unfolded as lives were extinguished or ensnared within the clutches of the gene-stealer cults, their whispers echoing through the desolation. Facing the impassive doors that guarded the remnants of hope, Bann's voice, a lament woven with despair, resonated through the desolate halls. The lands are lost, the water contaminated, and our people the lifeblood of Faradras sacrificed. We waged war not for glory, but for survival. Yet now, in the aftermath, what path lies ahead? His query echoed the unspoken anguish, a collective pondering that hung heavy upon the air, burdened by the weight of a world extinguished. Amidst the desolation, only 4 defiant bastions of civilization endured, standing as solemn witnesses to the obliteration wrought by both the relentless and insidious tyrannids. Then, an ominous hush descended, a testament to the thorough annihilation that now gripped every inch of the once vibrant world. Landscapes, once teeming with life, lay desecrated, an infernal canvas painted in hues of despair. The tyrannid invasion, typically an unhurried process spanning weeks or months, found acceleration in the looming menace of the Syuns. A dire threat that forced the hive mind to adapt bioforms swiftly, a frantic dance to counteract the impending obliteration. The resonant echoes of key blasts, a formidable force wielded by the Syuns, contributed to the cataclysmic vaporization of vast land masses. The scorched earth bore witness to the collision of powers, leaving nothing but smoldering remnants in their wake. For the beleaguered survivors, a grim tableau unfolded. Despite the promise of technological uplift by the Syuns, an arduous future loomed, shrouded in uncertainty. The remnants of civilization faced a relentless struggle for sustenance, compelled to eke out an existence amidst the skeletal remains of a once thriving planet, scavenging for morsels in the aftermath of cosmic devastation. The gleam of hope flickered faintly in the shadow of desolation, as the survivors grappled with the bitter truth that their world had been irrevocably shattered. Within the chamber, Eldari dignitaries, the Palatine Ursula presiding, flanked by the Legatin and Cielo, absorbed the dire briefing echoing through the hallowed halls. Alongside them, stoic representatives from the Imperial Guard, bearing the weight of shared anguish, lent their presence to the somber gathering. The nobles, stewards of crumbling realms, bore stacks of parchment, each sheet a testament to the harrowing toll exacted upon their once proud territories. Castles, once bastions of power, lay in ruin, their grandeur now but a distant memory, and lands that once teemed with life now lay barren, stripped of fertility by the insatiable tyrannid scourge. In the shadow of collective suffering, every soul present within the precinct bore scars etched by the relentless onslaught. Victory, a bitter elixir, had been secured at a cost so profound it reverberated through the very essence of the assembly. Beside Bann, Aurora, a stalwart presence, drew a deep breath, resolving to seize control of the reins. Her betrothed had borne the burdens of leadership, guiding them through the darkness into the promise of a new dawn. Now, with a sense of purpose, she sought to share the weight upon his shoulders, a silent vow to navigate the aftermath of triumph and tragedy alike. We shall dispatch scouts into the desolation, seeking remnants to salvage from the clutches of ruin. Yet, let these words resonate, Redena, though scarred, shall rise anew. The hallowed walls of this city, bearers of history's weight, have withstood myriad trials. To proclaim ourselves as the progeny of Redena mandates that we rise from the ashes, as our forebears did in eras past. The resolute tenor in her voice, akin to a clarion call, echoed through the assemblage, settling like an indomitable force within their very cores. Her glacial gaze, piercing as a celestial raptor, held a regal authority as she allowed the weight of her proclamation to permeate the collective consciousness. In the coming days, we shall harness and integrate the technological boon bestowed by Lord Bann. Simultaneously, we'll venture beyond our ravaged home, seeking off-world merchants and traders to sate our needs. The bygone days are but echoes. In the aftermath of the tyrannid scourge, we must forge a new epoch of prosperity. A chorus of accord resonated among those who bore witness to her impassioned declaration. Yet, the specter of daunting reality lay within the very grasp of each noble, the papers on their desks unfolding a stark tableau of the formidable challenges that lay ahead. The willingness to rebuild, a beacon amidst the ruins, veiled by the shadows of an uncertain future. A noble, grappling with the stark reality of impending scarcity, voiced the collective concern, "Milady, how are we to endure this winter? Our provisions are but a fleeting comfort, lasting mere months at best." His visage bore the weight of personal loss, his former life now reduced to naught but a name and loyal men, whose allegiance hung in the balance. As Aurora prepared to respond, Bann intervened with a commanding gesture, silencing the room with the force of his proclamation. "I acknowledge the grievous toll exacted upon each of you in this relentless onslaught. However, to surmount this challenge, we must forge a unity among those with capability. Learn our technology, become architects of your destiny. Only through this collective effort can we construct the vessels needed for trade and resurgence." Rising from the throne, Bann's imposing figure cast a gaze that traversed the assembly, his voice resonating with a call to action. "The echoes of your former lives have been swept away by the ruthless tide of adversaries. Embrace this new era, for within it lies the canvas upon which you shall paint your collective future. Build it here, as countless others shall do." The challenge laid bare, a pivotal moment demanding allegiance to a shared destiny amidst the ruins of the past. A hushed reverence lingered in the chamber, an unspoken acknowledgement that defiance held no place before the unquestionable authority of the planetary overlord. The weight of their collective plea lay upon the shoulders of the figure who stood as the linchpin in their quest for resurgence. Bann's gaze, a stoic traverse over Eldari and Palatine alike, bore the gravitas of a leader unyielding in purpose. "I beseech both of you to extend your hands in alliance. In these dire times, Faradraz requires stalwart allies, and I, personally, pledge to repay your support by triumphing in your wars and vanquishing your adversaries. His words, devoid of artifice, cut through the air with resolute clarity, dismissing the need for political machinations in the face of impending peril. Within his grasp lay the fates of millions, a solemn responsibility that demanded unwavering commitment. The alliance sought not as a mere strategic move, but as a lifeline for a beleaguered world yearning to defy the shadows of devastation. Let it resound across the galaxy that the Syans stand ready to negotiate with any who proffer sustenance for our beleaguered populace. As for the Tyranids, they shall pay dearly for the unspeakable havoc they've wrought upon our world. I shall not rest until their very existence is expunged from the annals of reality. I, Bann, son of Pita and Grina of the Syans, pledge that my bloodline shall be the relentless scourge that eradicates the Tyranid blight. His proclamation, a symphony of resolution and undiluted animosity, reverberated through the chamber. A collective shiver coursed through the assembly as Bann's voice, laden with the weight of vendetta, thundered forth. His eyes, ablaze with an unbridled desire to obliterate the sworn adversary, cast an ominous glow that mirrored the fierce intensity of his vows. In the charged atmosphere, many raised their chins in a show of stoic resolve, swallowing hard as the potent cadence of Bann's words hung in the air. The very essence of his being resonated with the surging key, an embodiment of the tumultuous emotions surging within him, as the promise of vengeance kindled a flame that burned with relentless fervor. As the marathon meeting unfolded within the chamber's confines, nearly an entire day ebbed away, a collective catharsis as each participant laid bare their losses and aspirations. Bann and Aurora, now anointed as the regents of Redena, navigated the labyrinth of grievances, weaving compromises that echoed through the austere halls. Despair, a tangible undercurrent, sought refuge within the hearts of those grappling with the aftermath. Yet, the resonant oath pledged by Bann imbued the air with a newfound sense of purpose, a beacon amidst the shadows. It kindled a resolve to rise from the ashes, their weapons poised to carve a path forward. In the grimdark aftermath, the palace of Redena ceased to be a bastion of mere opulence, it transformed into a crucible of determination. The imperative to rebuild and fortify their foundations became the rallying cry. Towers that would ascend higher and stronger than ever before were envisioned, a testament to the indomitable spirit that coursed through the veins of Redena. Amidst the ruins, a silent vow echoed a promise of resurgence. Redena, under the aegis of the one who greeted the enemy with fire, would rise as a bastion of resilience and redemption. Sovereign and Redentor, Bann, stood at the helm, a symbol of hope in the grim tapestry of their rebirth. Amidst the comfort of the modest room, Bann, the embodiment of Saiyan strength, shared honey wine with the warlock Urocane. The air, infused with the rich aroma of the beverage, carried the undertones of a discussion yet to unfold. "What is it that brings you here, Urocane?" Bann inquired, settling onto a couch, his demeanor casual as he indulged in the honey wine. Urocane, releasing a measured breath, began to unveil a revelation foretold by the Eldari Farseer. His words, delivered with a tone that discouraged interruption, held the weight of predestined knowledge. It was in the foresight of our Farseer that such a calamity could transpire. Hence, I grasped the purpose behind our presence here. After the crucible of battle, it has become clear to me. Leaning into the proposition, the warlock continued, "My standing with a neighboring Exodite world is one of respect. I propose extending my influence to facilitate trade relations. In return for resources, they would seek your aid. An opportunity, if my intuition serves me well." The offer, hanging in the air, bore the allure of potential alliances and essential support, a lifeline within the uncertain tide of rebuilding. Bann's raised eyebrow betrayed his curiosity as he posed the question, what might they need my help with? A skeptic, for he knew the self-sufficiency of the Exodite worlds. Urocane, with a measured voice, responded, "Over the years, they've faced relentless assaults from malevolent entities seeking to consume their essence, the insidious forces of chaos." A shared gaze between them, laden with the gravity of the revelation, conveyed the direness of the situation. In the wake of a request, an unwelcome challenge loomed before Bann, a trial he had hoped to postpone, especially after the harrowing battle against the Tyranids. Uncertain of the mental fortitude of his comrades and whether their training would suffice, Bann found himself confronting an adversary of a different nature. The circumstances left no room for choosiness. With a heart weighed down by the gravity of the decision, and a steely resolve coursing through him, Bann addressed Urocane, uttering words that echoed with a solemn acceptance, "I suppose the Syans shall now fight against demons." Chapter 62, The Princess of No Land. As my eyes fixated on the starry void, once adorned by the radiant blue gem, a wave of nostalgia enveloped me, pulling me back to the memories of my home planet. Lowering my gaze, I pondered silently, would the strength and wisdom of my fellow beings have proven more effective than mine? Could they have forged a better outcome? Though I harbored little concern for the humans beneath, my heart ached for my companions. Their struggles etched in the lines of their faces, the pain and desperation resonated within their eyes as they witnessed the unforgiving devastation. We, a breed of Syans set apart from the ordinary, were privy to Rukyul's evening tales. He painted vivid pictures of planet Vegeta, its people, their traditions, and the distinct way they navigated life. The echoes of those stories lingered like ghostly whispers in our troubled existence. Diverging from Bann's and Rukyul's methods, Saiyan training lacked the solace of head pats or the affirmation of back pats for commendable deeds. Absent were Bann's talks, painting a canvas of life beyond the relentless clashes, a realm where dreaming and hoping transcended the duties imposed by our fathers and our race. In that fleeting moment, I clung to the belief that whispered promises of more. A conviction born when my hands first touched the pod computer, unveiling the stark truth: I was distinct from my companions. This understanding, gleaned from the echoes of biology lessons, permeated my existence like a haunting refrain, casting a melancholic hue over our desolate journey. In the intricate tapestry of my identity, the status of being a hybrid unfolded as a profound reflection of my lineage. It wasn't just a matter of having more pure Saiyan blood than my mother, it was a nuanced existence, a delicate dance between two worlds. The subtle lavender strands of my hair stood as more than a visual marker, they embodied the delicate balance and the inherent duality that shaped my perspective on life. Within a society propelled by the relentless pursuit of combat, I found myself in a unique position. My impulses weren't entwined with violence, and the prospect of seeking battles didn't fuel my aspirations. Yet, paradoxically, a deep-seated yearning resided within me, an innate desire to assimilate, to seamlessly become a part of the vibrant tapestry that defined the Saiyan whole. In the symphony of my journey, Bann emerged as a guiding force. A low-class Saiyan with pure blood, he defied the stereotypes that often clung to our kin. His intelligence and understanding transcended the norms, creating a space where I could find solace and acceptance. His consistent words of praise, delicately paired with the tender caresses of my distinct lavender hair, metamorphosed what was once a source of shame into my most treasured asset. These affirmations, intricately woven into the fabric of my existence, became as precious as the video recordings my mother had left behind. Bann's words, infused with care and patience, became the catalyst for my acceptance of the person I was. His wisdom served as a guiding light, illuminating the path towards understanding within our group, fostering an environment where everyone embraced my unique nature. Under his benevolent influence, our group evolved into more than mere instruments of combat. We transcended the boundaries of duty, forging connections that ran deeper than the tasks assigned to us. No longer just warriors, we became individuals who cared about one another, seeing beyond the labels of weapons and task completers. In that transformation, we ceased to be mere offspring of Saiyans. We became an us, a collective entity bound not just by blood but by shared experiences and a sense of camaraderie. And within this newfound unity, I, Celery, emerged as a poignant reflection of my hybrid lineage, standing as the most powerful Saiyan in our group, a testament to the acceptance and understanding nurtured by Bann's guidance. I was not merely a daughter of Nate and Grinjar, I was Celery, a Saiyan that was also thrown into the lot of life and chaos we came to get in. More than a formidable warrior, I became a friend and companion to my fellow Saiyans. And, harboring a silent hope, I aspired to be more, to evolve into the love that might blossom within the bonds we shared. Gazing upon the planet, a repository of cherished memories and beloved locales, I was seized by an unexpected wave of sorrow. This celestial body, so grievously afflicted, held a poignant significance. It was my home, the very crucible that shaped my upbringing and witnessed the genesis of my friends' legacies. And now, as the echoes of that relentless battle lingered, I, too, felt compelled to etch my destiny into the soil that cradled my past. Retreating from the expansive crystal window, my steps reverberated with a metallic clang, resonating through the dimly lit corridors of the space station. A desolate silence enveloped the dormant figures, all succumbing to the exhaustion wrought by the relentless conflict. In the hushed solitude, I lost track of time as I traversed the somber passageways, my journey culminating at the entrance to the pressurized chamber leading to the outer realms of space. As the metallic door loomed before me, I succumbed to instinct, stepping inside and allowing the chamber to embrace me. In the ensuing moments, propelled by an indomitable force, I soared out of the station, hurtling towards the planet that cradled the remnants of my home. As my body traversed the entrance, the desolate wasteland stretched before me, once a thriving city now reduced to haunting ruins, devoid of any semblance of life. This very city, a proud metropolis that Bann had entrusted to my protection and absorption under our rule, lay in shambles. My gaze wandered aimlessly across the scarred landscape, my eyes seeking nothing specific, yet I lingered, suspended in the air, as time flowed relentlessly. The mantle of leadership, a responsibility bestowed upon me, was something I never desired. The idea of reigning over others held no joy for me. A silent realization echoed in my thoughts, but I guess it's not about what I enjoy but what I'm supposed to do. The sense of duty and responsibility, principles Bann ardently tried to instill in us, echoed in my mind. Though his efforts were commendable, I, as a child during those times, failed to comprehend the gravity of his teachings. Floating amidst the remnants of a city that once teemed with millions, where dreams had flourished and vanished, the magnitude of Bann's lessons dawned on me. It wasn't just about personal enjoyment, it was about shouldering the weight of a collective destiny. The ruins around me whispered tales of aspirations shattered, and I understood, perhaps belatedly, the depth and necessity of the teachings I had once dismissed. What is this feeling? I pondered silently, a bitter sensation rising in my nose, causing my eyes to well up. Shaking my head in an attempt to dispel the emotions, I soared away from the desolate wasteland, bound for the city under Bann's rule, Redena. Approaching the city, the once pristine white walls, now tinged with a somber gray, stretched 60 meters into the air. The towers, once symbols of grandeur, lay shattered, their elongated forms bearing the scars of fierce battles. Yet, amidst the wreckage, my gaze was drawn to a poignant tableau that held me frozen in place. Before me unfolded a scene of heart-wrenching sorrow. Fathers, mothers, sisters, and brothers gathered, their tear-streaked faces reflecting the anguish that gripped their hearts. Under the towering walls of Redena, they paid their respects to various tombs, saying their final goodbyes to those they had loved. The air resonated with grief as they parted ways with cherished ones, leaving an indelible mark of loss on the once majestic city. In the somber aftermath, akin to my love for companions, their fortunes hadn't mirrored mine. A harrowing scene unfolded before me. A little girl, no older than 4, laboriously moved the earth with her tiny hands, burying a body shrouded in a white mantle. Her eyes, like an unyielding stream, betrayed the heaviness of sorrow as she dutifully played her part, assisting those around her in the grim task. Beside her, a child of the same tender age wiped away tears, standing tall and resolute. Below him, 2 figures draped in white received a solemn farewell, while a little baby nestled on his back. Amidst the despair that had befallen his life, a weighty responsibility now rested upon his small shoulders. Witnessing these young souls navigate through the gravity of loss and duty, I couldn't help but feel the weight of their burdens. In their innocence, they should have been spared such somber responsibilities, yet destiny had thrust upon them a reality far beyond their tender years. Not far from the young ones, a mother's anguished wails cut through the air, mourning the loss of her entire family. Her cries were a heart-wrenching symphony as she clung to the earth beneath her, unwilling to part with those she had loved, forever entwined in the soil. Her screams carried a pain that resonated in the depths of my being, a haunting melody of grief that I wished never to comprehend. Unbeknownst to me, warmth trickled down my cheeks, a silent tribute from my own tears, unbidden and unapologetic. I made no attempt to wipe them away. These tears were my offering, a form of respect for the profound sorrow that enveloped the humans below. The pain of thousands of souls echoed within me as I lingered there, suspended in the air, a silent witness to this tragic chapter in the lives of many. How many memories and emotions lay buried beneath the earth? The weight of that question reverberated through my mind, a somber reminder of the profound depth of loss etched into the landscape below. Gliding through the gates of the city and descending into the desolation of Redena's streets, I confronted the palpable face of sorrow. Families and individuals, now displaced and broken, littered the once vibrant streets. Some wept openly, others sought solace within the shelter of their own arms. Amidst this sea of despair, kindred souls reached out, offering comfort to those lost in the depths of their grief, even as they teetered on the edge of breaking down themselves. Yet, amidst the heartache, there were those who stood resolute bastions of strength in the midst of the city's desolation. Their stern faces clung to a semblance of normalcy, a reminder of the life that Redena had once known. Among the grieving, there were also those who assumed the role of builders, determined to reconstruct the city from its ruins. Their faces, devoid of sadness, immersed themselves in the laborious task of rebuilding. Muscles strained, their efforts were a testament to resilience as they sought to forge a haven for the souls left bereft of the means to rebuild on their own. In their determined actions, a glimmer of hope began to stir within the heart of Redena, a promise that from the ashes of despair, a new foundation would rise. In observing these resilient individuals, I found myself marveling at the simplicity of humanity, captivated by their strength amidst the fragility of their bodies and lives. Their capabilities, often overlooked, revealed a depth of endurance and determination that surpassed the physical confines of their forms. As I contemplated this, I came to appreciate that even those I could easily encircle with my fingers possessed a toughness and strength that surpassed my own. Their resilience, evident in their efforts to rebuild amidst the ashes of a shattered city, showcased a tenacity I could only admire, if not aspire to. The nakedness of life's fragility unfolded before me, laid bare in the midst of the daunting task of transforming the remnants of a city into something greater and better. Even with hearts heavy with grief and minds teetering on the brink of breakdown, they pressed on, molding a new existence from the ashes of tragedy. Their determination stood as a testament to the indomitable spirit that resided within the seemingly delicate vessels of humanity. I behold the resilience that humanity always showcased, and the reason why they could survive in a galaxy so dangerous as this one proved to be. Armed with nothing but their wits and minds, different from us, the Saiyans, they were builders of civilizations that we often so proudly conquer. On this day, I witnessed the other side of the coin that Bann had consistently tried to impart to us. The simplicity he found solace in became apparent as I reflected on those moments following him, seeking to unravel the enigma that defined his character. As night descended, I observed those stripped of material belongings, left only with the company of their own souls. Yet, amidst the loss, they shared what little they had. Mantles were exchanged for warmth, and dreams became a shared refuge. Food and drinks were passed around, accompanied by the soothing cadence of chatter, a collective attempt to momentarily forget the losses endured throughout the day. In these shared moments, I glimpsed the essence of humanity, the simplicity and strength that emerged from unity, offering solace in the face of adversity. It was a lesson Bann had subtly woven into his teachings, and tonight, amidst the resilient souls of Redena, I grasped the profundity of his wisdom. Unbeknownst to me, I found myself enveloped in the warmth of his arms, a comforting embrace that spoke of solace and understanding. His deep voice, a vessel of warmth that stirred something within me, gently broke the silence. "Hey, how long have you been here? Are you hungry?" His arms cradled my entire being, rendering me akin to a child within his protective embrace. Without a word, I allowed myself to turn towards him, resting my head against the reassuring warmth that radiated from him. In the quietude of the moment, my emotions ebbed and flowed, surrendered to the comforting presence he offered. As our embrace deepened, Time seemed to stretch, and in the quiet cocoon of his arms, I came to a profound realization about the course my life had taken and the profound appreciation I held for individuals like Bann. Between arms that could shatter mountains and continents, the gentle care of his hands worked like a balm, soothing the worries and concerns that had gathered throughout the day. In that moment, as he carried me through the sky, I felt the strength seeping back into me, a testament to the healing power of his comforting presence. Gently, my tail coiled around him, a shy gesture as I closed my eyes, acknowledging that he was the person I had trusted most since childhood. In the safety of his embrace, a profound realization dawned upon me. I had finally comprehended his teachings and the duty bestowed upon me. In a hushed whisper, I murmured, "I promise you, next time I'll do enough to protect everything." His response, a gentle and soft hum, "What are you talking about? You have done more than enough. Rest easy now," cast a tranquil spell over my mind, obliging me to follow his command without resistance. As I succumbed to sleep, another realization fluttered through my consciousness. This was the day I matured. In the cocoon of his presence, I found not just solace but an understanding of my purpose, a promise to protect, and a profound acknowledgement of the responsibility that now rested upon my shoulders. Chapter 63, Ripples. The cataclysm that unfolded across Feridras cast a formidable shadow, its repercussions rippling across the vast expanse of the eastern fringe. Dozens of worlds, once vibrant spheres of existence, were reduced to desolation as the insatiable hive mind endeavored to reclaim lost biomass. In an alternate timeline, these planets might have flourished, but now, they stood as hollow shells, bereft of any semblance of life, testaments to the relentless march of annihilation. Trillions of lives, extinguished in a macabre dance, bore witness to the magnitude of the tragedy. Their demise, a terrible toll exacted in the pursuit of a voracious hunger. Amidst the cosmic turmoil, fleets, stalwart defenders confronting the storm unleashed by the hive mind's restorative endeavors, crumbled under the weight of unrelenting destruction. The once mighty armadas, now but remnants, bore silent witness to the ferocity with which the cosmic balance was disrupted, leaving behind a canvas of desolation and loss. In the grim twilight of Acteron Prime, the Lord Sector Benicio Argentum found himself shackled by desperation, compelled to send forth a fervent plea to the Segmentum Lord in the face of the malevolent hive fleet Kraken. The lingering fear of potential Saiyan presence on other planets forced the ruthless adaptation strategies employed in Feridras to cascade across the eastern fringe. The resultant brutality unfolded as a cruel symphony, tyrannid numbers swarming with insidious persistence, fortified defenses amplified, and horrifying bioforms inflicting terror upon defenders. As the silence of the Imperium's response loomed, each fleeting moment became a merciless toll in the form of bloodshed, a harrowing hemorrhage orchestrated by the relentless tyrannid advance. Fangs and claws gnawed deep into the very fabric of the galaxy, leaving a wake of devastation that transcended the mere physical realms. Defenses, once stalwart bulwarks against cosmic calamity, crumbled beneath the inexorable onslaught. Entire subsectors teetered on the precipice of complete consumption. Imperial vessels, valiant but outnumbered, waged a desperate struggle to stave off the encroaching tide. From every corner of the Acteron sector, soldiers were conscripted, thrust into the forefront of a war that threatened to devour not just worlds, but the very essence of resilience within the hearts of the imperiled defenders. The aftermath of the unfolding calamity began to cast its ominous shadow, revealing the tangible repercussions. The proof of the Saiyan might, a resolute exhibition witnessed during the siege of Feridras, now emerged as an unmistakable feat for all who faced the relentless onslaught of the hive fleet Kraken. In the unfathomable depths of the eastern fringe, where the cosmos appeared an intricate tapestry of chaos, some beings cast their gaze upon a seemingly inconspicuous world. Nestled in obscurity, a beacon flickered amidst the turbulent currents of the warp. 6 individuals, embodiments of immense power, channeled this enigmatic light, drawing the attention and machinations of ruinous entities hungry for dominion. Within the warp's tumultuous embrace, nefarious plans began to coalesce, a brewing tempest poised to unleash a battle for supremacy, all in the pursuit of claiming these Saiyan entities for their own. Yet, amidst the cosmic intrigue, a revelation of unparalleled astonishment unfolded for the myriad travelers navigating the currents of the warp. Thousands of vessels beheld a new luminosity, radiating alongside the imperious glow of the Astronomicon, the light of the Emperor of mankind. The majority, wary and apprehensive at this unforeseen celestial event, pondered the implications with caution. However, among those more audacious, fueled by an indomitable spirit of adventure coursing through their veins like molten lava, the event beckoned as both opportunity and the promise of the unknown. With trepidation gripping their hearts and expectations soaring to unprecedented heights, those intrepid souls issued the command for their vessels to chart a course toward the newfound light piercing the cosmic darkness. Its brilliance, akin to the bane of daemons, held the power to repel the encroaching shadow in the warp that threatened to devour more and more systems within the Acteron sector. As their vessels sailed through the warp, guided by the radiant beacon, the passage of time stood as the sole arbiter, steering these adventurers toward the cusp of reality. Ears attuned and eyes fixated, the galaxy held its breath, anticipating the moment these beings would materialize at their destination. The call of the Ozuru reverberated, stirring the very fabric of the cosmos, heralding the advent of a new era. Within the tightly knit formation of vessels navigating the currents of the warp, a formidable ship of ancient design stood resolute. Its imposing frame bore the marks of time, windows concealed, weapons dormant, as a lifeline within the Imperium enveloped it. The Geller field, a technology of bygone eras, preserving humanity's fragile existence amid the chaotic warp. Inside the ship, soldiers moved with measured precision, their every step under the watchful gaze of a stern commissar. She scrutinized them with an unyielding determination, seeking any subtle hint of taint that might threaten the sanctity of their journey. 100 had already faced the cold judgment of her bold pistol, and the grim reality foretold that more would inevitably follow in the days to come. This, a somber toll, was the price exacted upon humanity for venturing through the treacherous warp, a testament to the perpetual struggle against the insidious forces that lurked within the shadows of the Imperium. Within the cruiser, en route to the enigmatic Faradras system, Inquisitor Jezebel maintained her vigilant stance in the ship's command center. An intriguing message had reached the choir of astropaths, a directive from Jezebel urging them to remain watchful for any signs emanating from that distant realm. In the warp's ethereal expanse, where every sensation reverberated with dissonant echoes, they all bore witness to the mighty roar of the Ozuru, a cataclysmic event that unraveled the focus of many within the ship. Despite their desperate attempts, the litanies sung in the throes of desperation proved powerless to shield the souls of those aboard from the corrupting whispers that loomed in the dark corridors of the Imperium. Yet, undeterred by the perils of the warp, Inquisitor Jezebel's fascination with the unfolding events in Faradras only deepened with the passage of time. The emergence of a new beacon within the beleaguered system fueled her curiosity, compelling her mind to be fully immersed in the unfolding enigma that awaited on the horizon. As the cruiser treaded through the warp, nearing the conclusion of their third week of travel, a new message resonated within the ethereal currents. This time, a plea for assistance emerged, a call echoing from the beleaguered system. The ships within sought repairs, and Imperial troops, stranded upon the Shone planet, yearned for salvation. With a mind ablaze with anticipation, and a fleet poised for action, the inquisitorial fleet closed in on the planet destined to alter the fate of the galaxy forever. The looming encounter held within its grasp the potential for both salvation and upheaval, as the warp's turbulent currents carried the envoys of Inquisitor Jezebel toward a cosmic juncture pregnant with uncertainty and profound change. Much akin to Bann, the three Syans received detailed briefings in their respective cities. Rukyul, standing in the desolate aftermath of Argonas, confronted its inhabitants with a somber countenance as they shared tales of profound loss. Too much had been sacrificed for his previous folly, and the time had come for him to ascend to his rightful position as their ruler. Embracing his newfound responsibility, Rukyul assumed a role central to the city's reconstruction. Unlike Bann's protracted meeting, Rukyul's resolve shortened the deliberations, focusing on swift and decisive action. His formidable figure soared through the remnants of Argonas, laboring tirelessly by carrying massive stones with seemingly effortless strength. Amidst the debris, he aided in the creation of vast tombs for the fallen, setting an example that spurred the entire city into unified motion. Inspired by his unwavering dedication, the inhabitants rallied to the cause. Together, they maneuvered through the wreckage, initiating the arduous process of reconstruction, a testament to the resilience that burgeoned within the once shattered city. Aprit, distinct in his approach, appointed his women as advisors, allowing their counsel to guide him as he attentively listened to the needs of his population. Promising swift resolutions, his mind, however, remained entangled in concerns, particularly the looming specter of chaos that cast a shadow over his warrior's judgment. The weight of a lapse in judgment, especially given the newfound awareness of the perils surrounding him and his comrades, bore heavily on Aprit's shoulders. Following an extended meeting with the people of Carant, he sought solace within the comforting presence of those he regarded as his women. Amidst their care and gentle touch, a balm for his troubled mind, he believed that within the warm embrace of such enchanting companions, the answers to his plight would unfold. In the aftermath of her own tumultuous actions, Ramila struggled to uphold a facade of stoicism, acutely aware of the suffering wrought by her lapse of judgment during the battle. A pervasive guilt, entwined with a reluctance to assume a leadership role she deemed herself unfit for, weighed heavily on her conscience. If only I could have maintained my sanity back then, she lamented within the confines of her inner thoughts. The passing hours seemed to stretch endlessly for her, with minutes feeling like protracted hours and hours akin to languorous days within her burdened mind. Haunted by the faces of nobles and what she believed was an accusatory gaze in their eyes, Ramila found herself paralyzed by shame, reluctant to unveil her countenance. The perceived deficiency in her strength stifled her, making even the simple act of showing her face a formidable challenge. Within the recesses of her tortured thoughts, Ramila grappled with self-condemnation. It is all because I couldn't control myself. I wish I could have been just better. Tears threatened to cascade from her eyes as she surveyed the faces of ordinary people witnessing the collapse of their world. The once glinting brilliance of hope had vanished into the abyss. The silent suffering she endured spared her from their screams, a testament to the strength she eventually displayed and the earnest efforts she invested to rectify her previous errors. It was an unspoken understanding, acknowledged by both parties. I'm sorry, I didn't want any of this, she conveyed silently, her eyes betraying a sincerity that resonated with some of the elders who could perceive the truth. Before them stood not a formidable leader, but a young individual burdened with a responsibility far too immense. Yet, despite the weight, she became their harbinger of a new dawn, a beacon of unwavering resilience amidst the encroaching shadows. Amidst the labyrinthine streets, Ramila traversed the echoes of the populace's words, a solemn pilgrimage she had insisted upon, intertwining the nobles, leading figures, and the common folk. A call for unity resounded, and within a lengthy procession, each soul unburdened their hearts, entombing their laments within the ruins of the city. The time for mourning gradually yielded to the imperative of reconstruction and a shared determination to flourish once more. As the night descended, Ramela, grappling with an internal turmoil on the verge of overwhelming her, streaked across the sky in a luminous trail. Her destination held the promise of solace, for there existed but one person who could impart the sense of comfort she desperately sought. The subdued glow of the city's lights illuminated the once grand square of the Palace of Redena as Ramela landed, casting a somber hue upon the scene. What had been a bustling fleet of transport ships and fighters now stood diminished, a mere shadow of its former self. Long faces and heavy hearts pervaded the atmosphere as the populace mourned their losses and reconciled with the harsh reality that had befallen them. Ramela's presence, however, commanded a different energy. As she moved through the square, the people, still grappling with grief, straightened their backs and showcased their respect. None dared to lack in acknowledging the Saiyan girl who, in silence, made her way into the palace. Ignoring the servitors and individuals traversing the halls, Ramela honed in on the distinct energy signature of Bann's key, seeking the solace and comfort that only he could provide in these trying times. He should be here. Urgency propelled Ramela through the corridors, the knot in her throat constricting the air. Unfazed by formalities, she entered with eyes brimming with a profound sense of longing. Within the room, Celery's peaceful figure lay above Bann, who rested on a couch. His gaze, a blend of surprise, concern, and affection, lingered on Ramela's face and body language. It seems like both of them were deeply affected by this, he reflected inwardly. With a whispered inquiry, "Hey Ram, what brought you here?" Bann gestured for her to maintain silence, directing her attention toward the slumbering Celery. The weight of unspoken emotions hung in the air as they navigated the aftermath of their shared trials. Ramela, her emotions restrained but evident in her quivering voice, nodded eagerly, traversing the distance with silent steps. As she approached Bann on the couch, she whispered, her voice laden with both eagerness and vulnerability, "I need you. I saw today the faces of all the people that were affected by what happened." Kneeling with both legs near Bann's face, she moved her head towards his neck, an intimate gesture. Her trembling hand started caressing his face, silent tears streaming down her cheeks. "They'll suffer because I couldn't control my emotions, because I was weak and dumb, because I can't do things like you or Big Brother." Her voice carried unwillingness and bitterness. Unable to bear her self-deprecating words, Bann turned his head sideways, gently raising her head through her hair with a free hand. The gesture held a silent reassurance, a gesture meant to dispel the shadows of doubt and self-blame that lingered in Ramela's heart. "Stop saying such things about yourself, Ram. It's not your fault what happened. It's because of you, because of us, that this planet could even sustain all these people alive, that all of them saw another day." Bann's words carried sincerity as he tried to alleviate the weight of self-blame that burdened Ramela's heart. However, the hurt and need reflected in her eyes caused a twinge of pain in his own heart. "Tell me, what can I do to make you understand this? To make you stop crying?" Bann's eyes, the formidable black orbs that could command nations and instill fear in the hearts of exemplary men, now gazed at Ramela with a warmth and love so profound that, for a fleeting moment, it eclipsed the pain that gripped her soul. Responding to his comforting gaze, Ramela brought her lips to his face, conveying her need for him through a series of tender kisses. Between each kiss, she murmured, "I need you." With her heart in her mouth, she leaned in closer, whispering the words in a final kiss, "I need my man." Their lips sealed together, engulfed in a passionate kiss that stole their breath away. For Ramela, the night held a yearning to escape the solitude of her thoughts, seeking solace in the arms and lips of the man she had come to love. In this moment, she wanted to feel alive, to hear his words that would affirm her capabilities and dispel the shadows of doubt. For tonight, she sought the reassurance that only Bann, her chosen partner, could provide. Chapter 66, He Who Greet with Fire. An icy chill settled over the space station, sending shivers down the spines of its occupants. The air crackled with tension as Bann's silent approach towards the royal chamber commanded attention, his every movement exuding an aura of authority. People instinctively parted in his wake, their gazes cast downward in deference. Others watched him with wide-eyed apprehension, their breaths caught in their throats. The weight of his presence hung heavy in the air, suffocating any inclination towards conversation. In the hushed stillness, Bann's eyes gleamed with an intensity that promised both danger and resolve. His muscles tensed beneath his clothing, a silent reminder of the power he wielded. No words were needed to convey the message. Defiance would be met with swift and merciless retribution. "Oh shit." The unspoken thought reverberated through the minds of those nearby, a silent acknowledgement of the palpable threat in their midst. Each heartbeat seemed to echo in the silence, the heavy atmosphere pressing down on them like a leaden weight. No one dared to inquire about the source of Bann's evident ire, each person too wary to risk provoking his wrath. Bzzzzzzz. A surge of telekinetic energy swept through the corridor, causing the very walls to quiver in response. The heavy doors of the royal chamber swung wide open, their movement echoing like a thunderous clap in the stillness of the station. The suddenness of the sound sent a ripple of fear through the occupants, as if a fearsome beast had awoken from its slumber. Inside the royal chamber, Ganus and his retinue were jolted from their reverie by the unexpected noise. Their eyes darted towards the source of the disturbance, finding only the imposing figure of Bann hovering before them, his expression inscrutable yet demanding answers. "What have we done wrong?" Augusta couldn't help but ponder in terror as her heart clenched in a tight knot, her gaze fixated on Bann. Her mind raced, desperately trying to recall their actions in recent days. Meanwhile, Ganus wore a grimace of pain, his mind assaulted by a searing agony. His breaths came in short gasps, his heartbeat thundering in his ears as he stared at Bann with a mix of dread and defiance. As Bann drew nearer, sweat began to bead on their skin, the luxurious off-world garments clinging uncomfortably to their bodies. The fine linen, coveted by nobles and obtained at great cost, now felt like a suffocating shroud. Their body temperatures rose, and the ornate necklines of their clothing seemed to constrict their throats. Their sweaty palms fumbled to adjust their clothing, fingers working frantically to create some semblance of comfort. Veins bulged beneath their skin as their hearts raced, pumping adrenaline-fueled blood through their veins. Pupils dilated, their gaze fixed on Bann as if the distance between them stretched into infinity. Time seemed to slow to a crawl, the moments elongating into eternity, trapping those in the room in a suspended state of apprehension. They stood frozen, their bodies trembling under the weight of Bann's predatory presence. Ganus, bearing the brunt of Bann's primal aura, swallowed hard, his mouth dry with fear. His once protective armor, crafted from ceramite and other alloys, now felt like a suffocating cage, weighing him down with its oppressive bulk. His fingers hovered over the belt at his hips, a futile gesture of readiness until the realization of Bann's true power gave him pause. The oppressive atmosphere created an unnatural sensation, thickening the air until it felt as dense as mud. Some succumbed to the overwhelming pressure, sinking to their knees in submission, while others gritted their teeth in defiance, refusing to yield to Bann's dominance. Bann's gaze remained fixed on his objectives as he declared coldly, "I do not require lesser men to kneel before me. Show your strength of will and stand proudly in my presence." Like a splash of icy water, his words elicited grunts of displeasure and simmering rage from more than one individual. Despite their inner turmoil, they attempted to comply with his directive. As Bann's floating figure passed through the double doors, adorned with intricate designs that spoke of a storied lineage, he showed no outward interest. His deep, low voice cut through the deafening silence. "Imagine my surprise upon awakening today to find the corridors and rooms of this space station teeming with unfamiliar faces, moving what belongs to me without so much as a word." His presence loomed over the Inquisitor and his retinue like a weighty sun, rendering them unable to meet his gaze directly. None remained untouched by the overwhelming pressure bearing down upon them. What was even more audacious, or perhaps more stupid I may say, was witnessing individuals using my own chamber as they pleased in my absence. "Tell me, Inquisitor, do you still believe you are within the Imperium's jurisdiction?" Bann's question hung in the air, his eyes daring Ganus to respond. Veins bulging visibly on the sides of his face, Ganus attempted to answer, "I am aware that we are no longer within the Imperium, and I apologize for not seeking permission before undertaking repairs." With a silent stare that seemed to stretch on for an eternity, Bann scoffed. "I did not ask for an apology, Ganus. As I fear my previous actions failed to earn your respect and thoroughness." Bann's figure tapped against the floor as he approached the Inquisitor. Tap. Each of Bann's steps resounded like thunder, echoing through the station and reverberating in the ears of all who stood witness. Tap. Bann's telekinetic power seized Ganus's body, rendering him unable to resist as Bann lifted his chin, forcing him to meet his gaze. Tap. With one final step, Bann's face loomed inches from Ganus's as he strained his neck downward, their eyes locked in a tense confrontation. "Tell me, Ganus, how does one earn the respect of an Inquisitor?" "In my eyes, respect is earned, at minimum, through decorum and mindfulness of one's circumstances." Bann's voice was low and commanding, his gaze like a black hole piercing as he briefly glanced towards Augusta. "People had done more than enough for me to spare your life, yet you always find a way to not only act against any sense of rationality, but even you are bold by showcasing openly your disrespect for my image." Ganus, proud of the training he received to become who he was today and what he represented, an Inquisitor from the Imperium of mankind, had never shunned adversity nor succumbed to his primal senses. Yet for the first time, he saw in the cold face of a Xenos the palpable reality of doom. His body shuddered, not out of fear, but in defiance against the icy grip of death. The chill drained the color from his face, causing his eyes to quiver. His mouth remained tightly shut, unable to even let out a squeak as he could only listen to the Xenos' words. "It is evident that your circumstances are dire if you dare to proceed without seeking my permission to repair your vessels and rearm your arsenal." Bann's voice was measured as he circled around Ganus, his words dripping with implication. "But what is even clearer to me, Ganus, is that you are in no position to repay what you have taken. And I am one from which your luck has run dry. How do you propose we proceed?" Ganus swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the threat pressing down on him, compelling him to respond. "We have aided in the defense of this system, and if you desire us to vacate your territory, then our actions were necessary," Ganus replied urgently, his words tinged with desperation. Something which clearly displeased Bann, who simply smiled while saying, "Your fate was intertwined with this system, your survival is a testament to it. I care not about your safety, Inquisitor, you took what is mine. Now, how are you going to repay me?" His gaze was once again fixed on the man after circling him once. Ganus's mind went into overdrive. It is clear that he is looking for something with all of this, but what exactly will suffice to quench his folly? With the unknown unspoken and time passing by, Ganus answered him, "I can obtain almost anything you wish, Zeno. But that can only apply in the Imperium, not here." Hearing his response made one of Bann's eyebrows raise, while his mind couldn't help but wonder, are Inquisitors supposed to be this dumb? Anyways, his worth lies in what he could deliver to the Imperium rather than dead. A sincere smile suddenly perched upon Bann's lips. From one simple notion, life seems to favor this man. There was always something that seemed to appear preventing him from killing the man. He was someone whom destiny took a liking to. Your life holds little value, Inquisitor, as do any promises you can offer, Bann remarked with a deliberate tone, his hand suddenly seizing Gannicus's most precious possession, the inquisitorial rosette. Yet this, my friend, this is an entirely different matter. Gannicus desperately attempted to resist Bann's telekinetic grip, but he found himself frozen and powerless as he watched Bann toy with his rosette. This is the only measure of your worth, Inquisitor, aside from your intellect. However, the latter seems broken and unworthy, from what I can discern, Bann continued, his words carrying an insightful weight that escaped the desperate man and the fearful cotters. Only Augusta managed to fully grasp the significance of his words. The mess that your empire has become is utterly useless when it comes to defending a system. Your ignorance and foolishness have proven to be detrimental to each world. Technology and knowledge that should have been available for 10,000 years are now lost, thanks to the likes of you who pursue lost causes in their shadows and ignore the persistent dangers that thrive within the galaxy. Bann's words escaped his mouth with increasing intensity, his ki flaring up and his veins bulging threateningly. His black orbs now blazed with the heat of white suns as memories of Feridras and his plans flooded his mind. Instead of purging the rot that corrupts your empire, you waste resources on lost causes. Even now, I'm sure someone has been sent to deal with us, he continued, crushing the rosette in his hand as if it were made of clay, while Gannicus remained rooted in place, motionless, staring at his hand. You'll prove useful once in your life, Inquisitor, Bann declared, his eyes locked onto Gannicus, who could barely register his words. You'll repay your sorry excuse of a self by bringing food and other resources into my system. Otherwise, your name shall echo through the depths of the galaxy as I lay waste to each of the Imperium's worlds to obtain what you owe me. With a scoff, Bann turned away, releasing his telekinetic grasp on Gannicus, whose ragged breath echoed through the chamber. Bann walked toward the table and poured himself a drink from a crystal cup. His gaze then shifted towards Augusta, who regarded him with a myriad of thoughts swirling in her mind. Her face, a canvas for the most astute of detectives to decipher her emotions. Ms. Sterna, Bann addressed her, gesturing with his cup towards the vast window overlooking Feridras, your duty beside that man has been completed. Your place now lies within this station, and that planet. His eyes gleamed with amusement as he observed the emotions flickering across the psyker's face. Her cheeks flushed, and her body trembled slightly. Though her eyes could easily mask any emotion with dread, Bann's keen senses detected something more. I will truly stay here. The realization of her worst fear ignited a whirlwind of emotions within Augusta, leaving her unable to tear her gaze away from Bann. A sensation gripped her neck and breath, not from any physical force, but from the feeling of something tightening around her throat. The connection between her and Bann. With eyes that spoke about trouble, Bann finally settled into his throne while he said to the presence, now, shall we delve deeper into details? Chapter 67, Those Whom He Loves. The black orbs of the rosary, a gift from Legate in Miriam, rested in my hands, their smoothness offering solace as sunlight filtered through the gaps in the curtains, casting gentle rays into the room. A faint breeze stirred the air, causing a shiver to run down my spine. The previous night had found me awake until the late hours, lost in prayer and introspection. I allowed my mind to drift, seeking connection with the divine. The events of recent days, though in some ways welcome, had undoubtedly left their mark, altering me in ways I could scarcely comprehend. The scent of roses permeated the air, a fragrance that seemed to linger in every corner of the palace. As I struggled to summon the strength to rise from my bed and face the day ahead, the aroma enveloped me, a reminder of the beauty and fragility of life. Since my awakening during one of the training sessions with the Xenos, I've been plagued by the incessant noise of everyone's thoughts around me. It wasn't a deliberate intrusion, nor could it be silenced or ignored. The sheer weight of emotions was overwhelming, exhausting my mind with its ceaseless barrage. I found myself immersed in a constant stream of joy, pain, misery, hate, happiness, and love, experiencing the tumult of humanity's collective consciousness at all times. Despite the warlock's warning, it was impossible to fully comprehend the magnitude of this newfound ability. It was an unrestrained cacophony that threatened to drive me to madness, if not for the soothing chants and litanies I recited in my mind to maintain some semblance of sanity. Even though the warlock has told us beforehand, it is simply too insane to properly grasp my head around. Casting a glance towards the wooden bedside table where my clothes lay, I slipped my feet into the silk slippers and touched the cold floor. With a deep breath, I gathered my waist-length golden hair and began to fashion it into a high ponytail, using the sunlight filtering through the window to assess my appearance. Before donning my clothes, I hummed a song I had learned in the Order, one that spoke of the trials and rewards of devotion to the Emperor, and the duty we must fulfill. With my leather belt secured around my hips, I cast a swift glance towards the bed before making my way out of the bedroom and towards the dining room. Outside, cherubim and surfoskulls flitted through the corridors, each engaged in its own task. I wonder why he doesn't like them. The question lingered in my mind as I recalled Bann's aversion to these mechanical beings. Without fail, he always insisted they remain at a distance, prohibiting their presence in any room he occupied. As my footsteps echoed along the wooden corridors, I glanced briefly at the intricate ornaments adorning the walls. Upon reaching the dining room, I halted in surprise, my eyebrows raised at the unexpected sight before me. Seated at the large table, surrounded by a plethora of dishes, were the Saena's Chal Aurora Fenitos and Ramela, the Saiyan companion and one of Faradra's saviors. The atmosphere between them crackled with tension, their gazes locked in a cold standoff. Meanwhile, Ramela voraciously consumed food intended for at least 7 people. Aurora, dressed in a modest yet comfortable white dress, had her hair elegantly tied in a bun, revealing love bites and other marks adorning her neck. My cheeks flushed at her boldness, diverting my gaze towards the Saiyan girl. Clad only in black spandex, her figure left nothing to the imagination, adorned with similar love bites and marks on her neck, arms, and even glimpses of them on her thighs as she raised her leg into the tapestry of the seat. Despite their serious expressions, both women exuded a radiant glow that caught my envy. It must be nice. I hope to experience that soon, I thought to myself, feeling a pang of longing. They were both stunning, each in their own unique way, yet shared a common aura of joy and contentment. And from the looks exchanged between them, it was evident they knew who was responsible for the other's blissful state. Good morrow, Ms. Fenitos, Ms. Ramela, I greeted them with a deep sigh, entering the room with a sense of resignation. The two paused their silent competition to acknowledge my presence. Morning, Ms. Sterna. How fared your slumber? Aurora inquired, her voice laced with genteel concern. Ramela nodded in response, her attention consumed by the task of gnawing on a bone. Taking my place at the prepared seat, I replied to Aurora, though sleep eluded me due to restless dreams, I find myself surprisingly invigorated this morning. And what of your night, Ms. Fenitos? Despite my reluctance to broach the subject, I inquired out of courtesy, seeking to alleviate the tension that hung thick in the air. Aurora's countenance radiated with warmth and sincerity, her captivating smile adding an ethereal quality to her already mesmerizing beauty. The night proved to be quite splendid, an unexpected delight that I welcomed with open arms. She shared, her voice tinged with longing as her hands tenderly caressed her abdomen. Ramela's gruff growl punctuated the conversation, her attention momentarily diverted from Aurora's gesture as she forcefully cracked a bone, the sound echoing through the room. She slurped the marrow within, her expression betraying unmistakable discontent. As I observed their interaction, a sense of foreboding crept over me. If they cannot reconcile and communicate, the harmonious vision I beheld in my dreams may remain but a distant hope, I pondered, turning my attention to the meager fare before me. Despite its simplicity, I savored each bite, grateful for the nourishment it provided compared to the austerity of convent life. With the rhythmic clinking of our cutlery echoing throughout the dining room, a palpable tension settled over us like a heavy shroud as we partook of our meal. An uneasy silence hung in the air, broken only by the steady rhythm of our chewing. Then, as if drawn by some invisible force, our attention was drawn to the source of the approaching footsteps, a presence that seemed to cast a shadow over the room, stifling the very air we breathed. A figure emerged, adorned with locks of lavender cascading down her shoulders, a sight that filled me with a mixture of dread and resentment, for this was the individual who had once brought about my demise, the one whose presence I despised most on this planet. Hastily, I closed my eyes, willing myself to remain composed, to resist the urge to be consumed by hatred that threatened to engulf me. Don't let it bother you, I repeated to myself like a mantra, don't allow yourself to be consumed by hate. With each breath, I sought to regain my composure. A derisive scoff pierced the silence, followed by her disdainful words. That beast wastes no time sinking its fangs into you, does it? I wonder how long it will be until it does the same with her, she remarked, her words like barbs aimed at the heart of our uneasy gathering. Sensing the weight of various gazes fixed upon me, I quickened the pace of my mental chants, desperate to shield myself from the onslaught of emotions threatening to engulf me. Swallowing hard to dislodge the heavy knot lodged in my throat, I reluctantly opened my eyes and directed my gaze towards my plate, determined to continue eating despite the churning turmoil within me. Each bite felt like lead in my mouth, my appetite vanishing under the weight of her presence. Control yourself, Cielo, I admonished myself silently, she won't go anywhere, and you must restrain your negative feelings. Keeping my eyes fixed on my food helped to mitigate the discomfort her presence evoked, yet the sheer contempt and loathing simmered within me, threatening to consume me from within. Amidst the tense atmosphere, a sudden gulp caught my attention before Ramela's voice cut through the silence. You're just jealous that it wasn't you. Don't worry, though, I'm sure he'd be after you. After all, I don't think neither my brother nor that brat had it in them to go after you, she remarked in a tone laced with playful banter, punctuated by the sound of her voracious munching. Another scoff resonated in the room, accompanied by the unmistakable sound of a chair being shifted as Celery voiced her thoughts. I'll be damned before I share the man who fathers my children. With a swift glance in her direction, I observed her gathering various plates of food to her side. Despite the tense atmosphere, a grin tugged at my lips. Well, in that case, you'll be even more damned than you already are, I mused internally, unable to suppress the ironic twist of fate between what I had seen in my dreams and the words spoken now. With a newfound resolve, I vowed to hold on to her words, determined to make her regret them. I refused to allow my negative emotions to gain the upper hand, opting instead to observe the unfolding dynamics with keen interest. Well, you'll either end up as an old hag alone or settle for a human male, because there's no way I'll be leaving Bann, Ramela declared with unwavering resolve, her gaze fixed squarely on Celery. Celery returned her companion's intense stare with eyes brimming with emotions, the depths of which remained a mystery to both Aurora and me. In the midst of this charged exchange, Aurora and I remained silent, our voices drowned out by the palpable tension emanating from the two figures. Their disregard for our customs and etiquette was evident as they lounged with legs raised on their chairs, devouring their food with the grace of thugs. What about you, woman? You wouldn't mind sharing Bann with Ramila, would you? Do you think you could keep up with him? Celery's tone dripped with sarcasm as she directed her gaze toward Aurora, her eyes brimming with contempt. Aurora maintained a facade of impassiveness and courtesy, attempting to conceal her reaction from the rest of us. However, I couldn't help but notice the subtle clenching of her fist around her silverware, a telltale sign of her inner turmoil. I will be a dutiful wife to my fiancé, and I will support him in every way he needs me. He is more than enough of a man for that. If only you knew. I couldn't help but think, feeling a pang of sympathy for Aurora as I watched the two Syans grimace at the mention of the word wife, their eyes shooting daggers at the ruler of this city. Celery narrowed her eyes as she spoke, her voice dripping with scorn, distaste, and loath. Aren't you a helpful little human? Just remember, you're lucky to have been chosen as the wife of a Saiyan, let alone Bann. Her words cut through the air like a knife, and her gaze bore into Aurora with such intensity that it seemed capable of piercing through her. She's certainly not the one who is little, I couldn't help but think to myself as I observed the stark contrast between Celery's petite frame and Aurora's voluptuous and matronly figure. Aurora's expression hardened at Celery's words, and she spoke with evident discontent. Have I wronged you in any way, Miss Celery? I do not echo uttering any foul words towards you to warrant such clear enmity from your end. Despite the intimidating stare she received from the lavender-haired girl, Aurora remained steadfast, puffing out her chest defiantly. A dangerous smile spread across Celery's lips as she responded, "Oh, I'm simply reminding you of your luck. You're nothing more than a simple and feeble human woman, serving your purpose and nothing more." Her words cut through the air like a dagger, not only stinging Aurora but also causing a pang of discomfort within myself. Meanwhile, Ramila continued to eat her food, seemingly unfazed by the tension in the room. It appeared that Ramila shared Celery's sentiments. Before Aurora could respond, I turned my gaze to the girl who had once been the cause of my demise and addressed her with a sharp tone. There's no need to lace your words with venom to hide your jealousy. It's surprising that with all the power you possess, you can't find the courage to speak your mind to Bann. My words seemed to stun Celery, her eyes widening in disbelief as I continued. But worry not, you, along with Ms. Ramila and Ms. Fenitos, will stand by Bann's side, raising a family and protecting what belongs to you. In the meantime, try to be more bearable and likable to the rest of us. Taking a deep breath, I cut the last remaining piece of food from my plate as silence descended upon the room. My gaze remained fixed on my plate as I savored the final morsel, feeling the seconds stretch out like an eternity and the drops from the vase of juice moving at a snail's pace. I could sense the eyes of the three females on me, their silent scrutiny weighing heavily. With a gulp, I finished my breakfast before delicately cleaning my lips with a piece of cloth. Clearing my throat, I addressed them. I can assure you all that if you were to communicate with each other and strive to improve your relationships, it would bring great joy to Bann and create a positive environment for your children to be raised in. One that won't bring doom upon us all, if you catch my drift. Standing up and meeting the gaze of each woman with resolve, I bid them farewell, ignoring the hateful glare of Celery. Now, I hope you all have a good day. It was nice to see you and share breakfast together. My footsteps echoed through the silent dining room as I made my way to the double doors. With a final glance back at the three women, I closed the doors behind me, leaving behind their silent stares to greet only the wood of the doors. Placing my forehead against the doors, I let out a long, weary groan, closing my eyes as I thought, if he's not the one doing it, then I shall be. Sigh, my only hope is that everything works out as he's planning it. The idea of these kinds of conflicts becoming a regular occurrence weighed heavily on my mind, leaving me feeling uncertain as I prayed for the Emperor's guidance. Cielo, you fool! How dare you question whether the Emperor is right? Of course he's right. I scolded myself inwardly as I navigated through the palace corridors, making my way towards the building that currently served as the barracks for my order. I would need to seek guidance from my fellow sisters, and perhaps the Legadin could help me to reflect upon my thoughts and actions. Chapter 68, Thirst for Vengeance. The light filtering through the vast window adorned with delicate metal craftsmanship bathed the expansive chamber of the space station in a soft, ethereal glow. Dozens of individuals were arranged around the imposing throne where Bann sat, his expression stern and commanding. Among them, I stood, a silent witness to the proceedings. For what felt like an eternity, we listened to the accounts presented to Bann. From the station's personnel to those aboard the ships, each recounted their experiences. Even Inquisitor Ganus was not spared, detailing our encounters from battling the Tyranids to our arrival at the station and the subsequent demands for reparations. Throughout the proceedings, I endured the piercing gazes of those around me, aware of their scrutiny as Bann commanded me to remain by his side. His touch, though unwelcome, was insistent, his hands trailing over my body in a possessive manner. As he caressed my bottom, a wave of embarrassment and shame washed over me, my cheeks burning with humiliation. I bit down on my lip, suppressing any outward signs of discomfort or distress, unwilling to give him the satisfaction of seeing my vulnerability. Despite my efforts to maintain a facade of stoicism, the unwanted advances of Bann stirred conflicting emotions within me. The desire to resist warred with the instinct to comply, each touch a reminder of my powerlessness in the face of his authority. As Bann's commanding voice echoed through the chamber, his telepathic abilities weaving a facade of interaction with the inhabitants of the space station, I felt a sense of dread settle over me. His words, delivered with authority, were a stark reminder of his dominance and control. Meanwhile, his hands roamed over my body, igniting a fire within me that I struggled to contain. Each touch felt like molten lava against my skin, sending shivers down my spine. I was painfully aware of the eyes upon us, their silent condemnation weighing heavily upon me. Despite the turmoil raging within me, I remained silent, unable to defy him or speak out against the injustice of his actions. It was a stark demonstration of his power, a reminder of the extent to which he held us all in his thrall. As I took a deep breath, a shiver ran down my spine, grounding me back to the reality. With a determined effort, I refocused my attention on the proceedings, pushing aside the cloud of distraction caused by Bann's manipulation. My senses sharpened as I listened to the reports being delivered by the station personnel. The resources from nearby asteroids and other celestial bodies will suffice to replenish what was used to repair the Inquisitor's ships. A man that goes with the name Pert quivered with a mixture of respect and trepidation as he addressed Bann. From my vantage point, I could see the beads of sweat forming on his forehead, his hands trembling as he attempted to wipe them away with the fabric of his pants. Oh my! Feeling Bann's grip tighten on my buttocks, I suppressed a gasp as his thumb traced a path over my sensitive skin around my hole. Meanwhile, his booming voice reverberated through the air like thunder, sending shivers down my spine. The resources you are speaking of, he declared, his tone commanding attention, are the very ones earmarked for the reconstruction of Feridras and the expansion of this space station. Resources that the Inquisitor will repay in due time, correct? His eyes, dark as a black sun, bore into Gannicus's armor, seeming to penetrate through it with their intensity. I watched as Gannicus gritted his teeth, his discomfort palpable, yet he nodded in reluctant agreement. Exerting great effort to conceal my ragged breath, I stifled another moan from my throat. I closed my eyes, relishing his touches as he continued. See? On the other hand, you will be passing on your knowledge to the younger generation back in Feridras, preparing them for the task of ensuring the continued strength of this space station. You will supervise their training and preparation on land. The sheer impact of hearing Bann's voice and feeling his gaze upon him was undoubtedly a harrowing experience for the man. I couldn't blame him for trembling and nodding with great effort while forcing a smile upon his lips after being fired. Gazing once more at the Inquisitor, Bann declared, Inquisitor, now that we've settled on the amount you'll be repaying, I'd like you to spread the word. Here in Feridras, any Imperium trader willing to engage in commerce will secure a contract guaranteeing the services of Saiyan warriors in their wars and battles. In return, we simply ask for the uninterrupted flow of trade goods into our system. Unconcerned with the fact that he was using the Inquisitor as a mouthpiece for their marketing efforts, Bann flashed a toothy grin at Gannicus, who visibly swallowed any retort he might have had. I saw him taking a deep breath before responding. Gannicus said, once the troops are delivered to their destinations, I will do as you ask. While I can't promise an influx of traders and merchants to this system, I will ensure word of your enterprise is spread. Something flickered across his face, a familiar expression I've seen many times in the Acteron sector. His inherent pragmatism. Given all we've endured thus far, it was entirely justifiable for the Inquisitor to simply shrug off the matter. However, all present knew that the Xenos, who toyed with me as he pleased, was likely a one-man army, a being capable of aiding the Imperium and saving countless lives. If it were the Gannicus who took me as his acolyte, I doubt things would have unfolded the same way. I said to myself, recalling how rigid and stern he once was, and observing how he now acted subdued towards a Xeno who spat at his title. As his hand transitioned from caressing the contours of my arse to teasing around my sensitive butthole, after edging me for a while, I heard him inquire, where will you be transporting these troops? Where might they be needed that even you will act as a ferryman for the Astra Militarum? Glancing briefly at Bann, I saw a slight grin on his sculpted and gloriously handsome face as he posed the question. Only to look back at the people below, I noticed the hardening expression on some of the officials. The briefing given by the astropaths had really put them on edge, I acknowledged to myself as I heard the Inquisitor answering. A call for help has been made in a cardinal world a few days ago, a call that has quietened down. We have received orders provided by the choir of astropaths from the Sector Lord, to head over the origin of it and provide reinforcements. His countenance was plain as he stared at Bann. A sighing moan escaped my throat as I felt his fingers expanding and teasing my rosebud through the clothes, longing for his bare touch. My face flushed as every inch of my skin burned in shame at my actions, aware of the stares of everyone fixed upon me and the reaction that Bann elicited from me. Instead of just looking and judging me, you could have helped me and freed me from his claws, I silently lamented, hanging my head low in shame. Isn't this a heaven-sent opportunity for me, Inquisitor? Tell me, how does the Imperium pay the mercenaries that save worlds like this? Bann's voice dripped with greed as he spoke, while I sensed him settling more comfortably into the throne. The question left the Inquisitor momentarily silent, his expression one of deep contemplation, a nuance that might have gone unnoticed by those unfamiliar with him. After all, Gannicus was widely known for his cold and detached demeanor, a demeanor that seemed to thaw in the presence of the Saiyan. After pondering for a moment, he responded, "We've never had assistance quite like what you could provide. Normally, when a planet of this importance requires aid, it's not a matter for mercenaries. However, given the urgency of the situation and the potential threat, I dare say you could fetch a hefty sum. Bann's interest seemed piqued by the Inquisitor's words, prompting him to ease his actions on my buttocks as he contemplated the information provided. His eyes scanned the room thoughtfully, his hand now absent-mindedly stroking his chin, the silence palpable save for the rustle of clothing being manipulated. Tell me, how distant is this world, and who is the enemy they face? I observed that he had yet to reach a decision, even as his caresses resumed on me. I glanced downward as the crowd parted for a scrawny, tall man adorned with various implants on his face and body. In his right arm, a data slate with a holographic projector captivated the attention of many, drawing their gaze away from his otherwise unremarkable appearance. With a raspy voice filled with utmost respect, he addressed Bann, "Sire, the Ocasus Cardinal world is 148 light-years away, and although the enemy remains unknown, given the recent events, we believe it may be the Tyranids." His attention remained fixed on the data slate as he began relaying what he had observed. Bann's hand came to a sudden halt, and I felt a suffocating air envelop the entire chamber. What's wrong? I wondered frantically, as the atmosphere grew heavy and stagnant. I witnessed more than one person grimacing at this revelation, evident that whatever had occurred affected everyone deeply. My knees faltered, and I collapsed onto the ground. Thud thud thud. More people followed my lead as my lungs strained for air. Ugh, a sensation over my throat made it feel as if something was choking me, while a cold sweat descended my spine. In the stillness of the air and the symphony of pained groans, we heard Bann's deep, gruff voice filled with pure hate and venom as he asked, "You said the Tyranids are heading towards that position." I turned my head towards him, straining my neck to raise and catch a glimpse of his face. A dark shadow enveloped his visage, while the fire of hate ignited within his eyes. His fists clenched, and his muscles, usually a sight to behold, now appeared tense and coiled, as if ready to burst forward. The light in the room itself seemed to dim as I heard the man squeak with heavy strain, "Why yes, sire, that's what we could assume after witnessing the phenomena surrounding that place." A wall of psychic presence washed over me, causing my head to feel numb. Ugh. I couldn't help but let out a groan. Meanwhile, Bann's voice growled in the background as I heard a beeping sound echoing like thunder in the chamber. "Tell the Eldars that I wish to meet them as soon as possible. Something important has come up," his voice commanded through the device beside his ear. A throaty and chilling laugh began to resound from his position, one that made every hair on my body stir with sheer fright. "You're someone loved by fate, Inquisitor. Always remember to be thankful for it." His voice made the bones of men shake as I heard the tapping sound of his footsteps approaching the Inquisitor, his voice and movements carrying momentum. "It seems I'll soon be heading to this planet and lending you all a hand, all without your needing to intervene, Inquisitor. Aren't you glad? Your only task will be to spread the word and repay your debt." The sarcasm and distaste were evident for everyone to hear. Slowly, the pressure that filled the room diminished, allowing us to breathe once again, and made me raise my neck to witness him towering over Ganus. "Tell your little astropath to inform the Sector Lord that Bann of the Syans will be saving that little planet of yours and exterminating the Tyranid menace from there. I expect proper compensation for it." His eyes then scanned the rest of the people, pausing briefly to inspect each of their expressions, receiving lowered gazes and submission from them. Shaking his head sideways, he stated, "Now that we Syans will take care of this matter, ensure you finish your preparations to move away from here. You're all dismissed." His command was heard and complied with relieved expressions as everyone hurried away from the chamber. As he turned around and looked over me with a dangerous glint, a slight smile perched upon his face, he spoke to me in a voice that sent shivers down my spine and nearly made me squeak. "Now, my little Augusta, you've been a bad girl in need of correction." His lightning-fast body appeared in front of me, and I felt his big, sturdy hands grabbing my waist. The same hands that could destroy a whole Tyranid ship were now tenderly caressing my skin, causing my breath to become ragged as my eyes were consumed by his powerful stare. His hands slipped behind my butt, grabbing each cheek with gusto, eliciting a muffled groan from my throat as I made a great effort to resist his advances. While his voice made me melt, he said to me, "I tried to punish you there, but it didn't seem enough. I guess I need to take matters into my own hands and be more thorough with you." His hands carried me with a force that left me no choice but to comply as my body surrendered under his large and towering frame. What are you planning to do?" I tried to prevent myself from sounding sultry, but his actions proved to be more effective than I first thought. Moving his head towards my neck, I closed my eyes as I felt his warm breath on my skin. He whispered in my ear, "I'll be taking you to that planet, while you'll be punished during the journey, making sure you serve me well." His words were followed by the pulsating and iron rod pressing against me. Its towering and powerful presence threatened my womb as I instinctively pushed hard against it, as if taunting it to follow through with its actions and words. My hands clasped around his neck as I strained to speak. I guess it can't be helped then." I felt kisses trailing around my neck as I purred under his machinations, yearning for his fingers to find their place around the curves and crevices of my ample bubbly rear, as my hips moved of their own accord, seeking his warmth. Vip-ti-di-di-di. Before we could be carried away, his device resounded through the chamber, and amidst my dazed mind, I heard a voice crystal clear. "I've just sent them towards the station. What happened?" The voice belonged to the large and tall Saiyan with a goatee, as he inquired. Bann, letting out a large lick around my neck that forced my voice to be muffled under a lick of my own against his neck, moved away before answering, "Thanks for telling me. A chance has appeared for us. One that I won't let pass at all. I've been informed about the location of more Tyranids, and I'm planning to go there and bring hell on earth." With my mouth latched onto his neck and my body surrendered to his embrace, I let him hold me tenderly and possessively as he uttered those words. "I'll need to put on a fresh pair after this," I pondered to myself, feeling my panties dampen with anticipation. The promise of his vengeance and my punishment proved to be a potent mix, sending my unwilling mind into uncharted territory. The sheer thrill and anticipation of witnessing what this Zeno was capable of stirred emotions I never knew I could feel. While plans for the doom of the Hive Fleet Kraken were being brewed in the conversation I witnessed, my mind was consumed by another matter: the overwhelming lust this man could evoke from me. Chapter 69, Preparations. Cutting through the azure expanse of Feridras was a vessel of alien design, its sleek and sharp contours reminiscent of a blade crafted with unparalleled precision, casting glimmers of light across its surface. Its seamless integration into the cerulean backdrop rendered it elusive to the casual observer. Compounding the difficulty of detection was the ship's color scheme, a blend of teal and blue, identical to that favored by the craft world Mimira. Within the vessel, 3 Eldari from the aforementioned craft world occupied the space, their expressions a mix of curiosity, concern, and profound weariness. At the helm was Arlene, her gaze darting between the myriad streams of data flashing across the console before her. Behind her, Eurocane and Anna stood sentinel, their eyes fixed upon the distant speck that marked the location of the space station. We had come to an agreement between our races, and the training was scheduled for later today. What could possibly be the reason for him to call us this urgently? Eurocane pondered, his mind swirling with intrigue as he searched for a plausible explanation. Meanwhile, Anna's thoughts veered in a different direction altogether. "I can't believe that the path has led us to such loss of emotions and experiences. Why didn't they inform us of all the things we would be missing?" The sheer disbelief she experienced from the ongoing interactions with humans, despite some displaying overt hostility, had shattered her expectations and perceptions of life. They can freely express themselves, manifest their emotions, pursue their desires without being bound like me. Her fist tightened around her clothing as she struggled to maintain composure in the presence of her kin, yet her thoughts continued to spiral around the same troubling issue. In the humans on this planet, she found something she had never realized she desperately sought: freedom. With a deep sigh, she cast a fleeting glance towards the warlock, her thoughts echoing in her mind, "It matters little, I suppose. We're here for a purpose, to fulfill a mission and safeguard the survival of our home. Just focus on the mission, Anna. That's all that matters." If she could, she would have slapped her face with both hands to emphasize the urgency of her inner directive. Yet beneath the surface, a tumultuous storm of conflicting emotions brewed within her. "After we finish everything with Bann, will we be returning to the humans?" Her melodious voice, a soothing balm to those who heard it, resonated through the cockpit as she directed her question to Eurocane. Shifting his gaze towards her, Eurocane nodded in affirmation as he replied, "Indeed we shall. I sense that what we're accomplishing with the humans here will prove vital in the future, though the full extent of its significance remains to be seen." A faint smile graced his lips as he spoke. His eyes then drifted towards the vast expanse of the void, their journey carrying them beyond the confines of the planet's atmosphere. "We will remain on this planet for a few more nights until I return to the craft world to deliver the news and ascertain what further actions are required from us to strengthen our alliance with the Syans." The memory of the Ozuru transformation lingered in Eurocane's mind, which was still freshly marked within the deeps of his head, and it was something that needed to be conveyed to Farseer Nairlayak. His insights and visions have truly proven effective. With allies as formidable as these, we might stand a chance to save our race and embark on a new beginning, Eurocane reflected inwardly. A flicker of hope ignited within his heart, casting a renewed sense of determination that gleamed in his eyes. Throughout his time and travels, he had witnessed the decadence of his people and the staggering loss of life. Yet, for the first time, he felt a glimmer of optimism, sensing that greater things lay ahead. Positioned alongside the Syans, he anticipated playing a pivotal role in shaping the future. Though their journey had just begun, and they had endured significant setbacks, the Syans embodied hope and power incarnate, manifested in flesh and bone. Witnessing them soar through the skies, effortlessly dispatching threats like the Tyranids, stirred something deep within even the most apathetic observer. "I've never been passionate about art like some of my fellow brethren, but now I feel compelled to explore the path later on to capture what I witnessed that day," Eurocane reflected inwardly. The memory of Bann, bathed in the sunset with the winds tooling his mane, overlooking the saved Redentia below him, was something he believed many would cherish to behold. Even the Eldari would have yearned for a savior like him. "There are only 2 ships remaining outside the station now. It seems the humans here haven't had it easy," remarked Arlene, her voice cutting through Eurocane's reverie with a chill as she scrutinized the sorry state of the frigate and its escort. Though the fires had been extinguished from the massive metal hulls, the scars left behind by the battle were visible, and repairs were underway. Large sections ravaged by acid were now being tended to by a small army of servitors moving about the ships. "It's surprising that only 2 managed to survive. But considering how rudimentary and sturdy those vessels are, it's understandable," Eurocane remarked with a slight nod of his head. As the small craft closed the distance, it didn't take long before Arlene began maneuvering the spacecraft into one of the available hangar bays. Donning their helmets, except for Anna who didn't have one, they made their way towards the spacecraft's doors as the hangar bay pressurized once again. Navigating through the dimly illuminated hangar, they soon arrived at the door leading to the labyrinthine corridors of the space station. There, they were immediately greeted by a throng of people bustling about, their wary and unwelcoming stares fixed upon the Eldar trio. Unperturbed by the crew's scrutiny, they strode with pride and confidence towards the royal chamber, where they knew Bann was likely awaiting them. Poor souls, Anna thought to herself as she observed yet another pair of servitors. Her keen eyes discerned what was likely the remnants of what once was before it became what it was today. Spotting two guards flanking the ample double doors of regal design, likely positioned to prevent unauthorized entry into the chamber and save them from the person inside, they watched as the doors slowly swung open, revealing the figure seated upon the throne of the station. Beside him, Augusta stood with a blush adorning her face, her hands clasped together in front of her. She appeared to be a close aide to Bann, who sat with a commanding presence upon the intricately carved and imposing throne. In an attempt to convey their respect and manners, the trio of Eldar began to bow their heads slightly, only to be interrupted by Bann's brusque words. "Leave the formalities aside. I need to speak with you all urgently," he commanded, gesturing with his hands for the doors to be closed with a wave of telekinetic force. "Tell me, how feasible is it for you to bring a large ship to this system and transport me to a planet?" Bann's words and gaze were charged with intensity, his demeanor bordering on frenzy. To Eurocane and Eileen, it seemed as though he were poised to take flight at any moment to fulfill whatever urgent task lay before him. After a moment of thoughtful consideration, Eurocane responded cautiously, "I cannot make any promises, not because I distrust you, but because such matters involve more than just us. Before we proceed, I would need to know specifics, such as the size of the ship you require." He spoke with a patient smile, mindful of the gravity of the situation. As Bann released a deep sigh, the tension seemed to dissipate from his muscles, his eyes momentarily closing. What could be troubling him to require such a concerted effort to calm himself? Eileen pondered, observing the Syun's uncharacteristic display of emotion. Yet she wasn't left wondering for long. As Bann opened his onyx eyes once again, he began, "I need a ship large enough to transport people to a planet. Tyranids are attacking an Imperium world, and I intend to demonstrate our strength while also ridding ourselves of some undesirable individuals from here." The wry smile on his face conveyed his meaning to the four individuals in the room. Eurocane's expression darkened at Bann's response, particularly at the conclusion he had reached. "You're not seriously considering allowing those humans to board this ship, are you? Do you realize how reckless and perilous that could be?" He wasn't questioning Bann's intentions, but rather the practicality of persuading humans to participate without causing problems. Dismissively waving his hand at Eurocane's concerns, Bann replied, "You needn't worry about that. I will be accompanying the voyage, and I will ensure that no one dares to cause trouble for you. Just see to it that we acquire this large ship." Seeing that his words were unlikely to sway the Syun's decision, Eurocane released a deep sigh and nodded reluctantly, his expression betraying his inner reservations. Bann's grin widened at Eurocane's acquiescence as he exclaimed, "Good. Now that's settled, I'll inform the others to prepare and determine who will accompany me. And as for you, my friend," he turned his gaze towards Eurocane, "after this little excursion, we'll be meeting with your people on that exodite world, so let's ensure we expedite matters. Plah. Thurip." With a loud slap, Bann's energetic demeanor filled the room as he raised to his feet, playfully tapping Augusta's backside. His exuberance contagious, he moved towards the door, checking his scouter as he went with a large grin over his face. Meanwhile, the Ildari remained frozen in place, their reactions varying. Eurocane wore a wry smile, Eileen frowned disapprovingly at Bann's actions, a blush threatening to surface on her cheeks. Anna's gaze remained intense as she stared at the acolyte, who made a hasty exit behind Bann, visibly flustered. He truly is a brutish man. Not only does he lack the etiquette and decorum befitting his position, but he also shamelessly indulges in debauchery in front of his allies. Eileen exclaimed, a hint of scandal in her tone as she attempted to mask her embarrassment with indignation. "But isn't it intriguing, Eileen? I wonder what it's like." Anna muttered to herself, while Eileen's eyes widened in surprise as she heard Anna contemplating Bann's actions. "Do not delve further down that path, Anna. It will only lead to trouble," Eurocane interjected sharply, his warning tone piercing the air as he fixed his gaze on the healer. It was better to err on the side of caution. He then turned to Eileen, his gaze steady as he addressed her, "And warrior, we are not in a position to judge others. All I saw was a man who felt comfortable enough in our presence to express his emotions and behave as he did. Let us now focus on the task at hand, for time is of the essence." With those words, resonating with the remnants of his wisdom, Eurocane strode towards the door once more. Anna and Eileen followed closely behind, their minds troubled and conflicted. Both Ildari females grappled with the clash between their Asuriani upbringing and the direct, simple-minded nature of the Syuns. Their thoughts swirled with a myriad of emotions, akin to a fine wine maturing with time. But for now, preparations needed to be made. Chapter 70, The First Travel. The vast halls echoed with the sounds of bustling activity as crew members from the two vessels, along with station personnel, moved about their duties with purpose and precision. Free from the servile hum of slaves and the mechanical whir of servitors and surfoscals, the station hummed with an energy all its own. As Bann strode through the bustling corridors, he towered over the various passers-by, his imposing figure commanding attention with each thunderous step. His presence demanded respect, forcing those around him to part ways to accommodate his determined advance. Bip-de-de-de. As Bann's fingers danced across the buttons of his scouter, a series of beeps echoed in the corridor, drawing curious glances from those nearby. With a commanding tone that resonated in his mother tongue, he addressed his teammates, his words tinged with a sense of urgency that hung heavy in the air. Guys, there's something I need to address with you all. Shall we meet in person, or shall I convey my message through the scouter? If it's not that important and you just need to tell us something, just do it over here. Aprit's voice resounded over the scouter, competing with the background chatter of the bustling space station. We will meet later on for training. If it is that important, we can speak about it then. Rukyul's voice chimed in, its calmness contrasting with the urgency in the air. Bann found himself agreeing with Rukyul's pragmatic approach, though he remained silent as Celery voiced her thoughts. Brief us over here, and if a meeting is necessary, you can provide more detailed information once we're together. Her tone carried a hint of annoyance, the reason behind it eluding Bann's intentions to understand. Just say it now, Ramila added, echoing Celery's sentiment, prompting Bann to release a deep sigh before relaying the urgent information. I've been informed by the humans that Tyranids seem to be attacking one of their planets. I've tasked Eurocane and the other Eldars to bring a large ship to transport me and some of you there, so we can cleanse those fuckers and secure valuable resources in the process, Bann explained. His words met with an eerie silence over the communication channel. As he continued his stride towards the hangar bay, Bann pressed on, we need to agree on who will be accompanying me and who will remain behind to defend the system in case of unforeseen events. The journey will last at least a couple of days, so consider that in your decision-making process. Those remaining behind will not participate in the scheduled training. His words were abruptly cut short by two voices speaking in unison. I'll be going with you. Celery's voice sounded determined, leaving no room for negotiation. Let's exterminate those pests. I'll start preparing immediately. Ban Ramila's voice rang out with joy, anticipation, and eagerness, her movements audible as she dashed about with purpose. As the sounds of Ramila's bustling activity reached his ears, Ban couldn't help but wonder, don't tell me she's preparing outfits? We only have 3 sets each. What else could she be up to? Meanwhile, his mouth went into action, relaying instructions to the remaining members of the group. Well, since Celery and Ramila have already spoken, Rukyul and Aprit, I'm assigning you both to oversee Faradraz in the meantime. One of you will remain on the space station to ensure everything is running smoothly according to our established protocols, while the other will patrol the cities down below. His command was met with 2 affirmative grunts from the 2 males. Despite the fact that both of them would benefit from the training with Eurocane, they were more than capable of maintaining the safety of the planet in his absence. With a power level around 7,400 units, Rukyul ranked as the 3rd most powerful Saiyan in the group, making him well equipped to fill the temporary void left by Ban's departure. On the other hand, Aprit, with his power level of 6,300 units, ranked as the 2nd weakest in the group. However, he possessed the skills and agility to provide ample support to Rukyul in the face of any potential threats to the planet. As Ban pondered their capabilities, he concluded, their fighting styles somehow complement each other, making them a formidable duo overall. With a nod of approval, he acknowledged how well the 2 Saiyans could hold their own and buy time in his absence. If anything comes up, remember that the channels will remain open so you can notify us, Ban reminded them sternly, emphasizing the importance of this piece of information that most factions in the galaxy would covet. Roger that, Rukyul replied dutifully, his tone firm and resolute, while Aprit remained silent, more occupied with the 2 tasks at his hands. Just as Ban was about to address them once more, he heard Celery's voice cut through the silence, asking, when will we be leaving? The question caused Ban to pause in his steps, a wry smile tugging at the corners of his lips. I forgot to ask Eurocane, Ban realized, his mind flashing back to his earlier oversight. However, instead of retracing his steps to the chamber, he discreetly approached one of the station personnel and requested to be guided to the Eldar's ship in a hushed tone, before addressing Celery's inquiry. Ahem, I'll be accompanying the Eldars to meet with some individuals. Once we return, we will depart, Ban announced, fully aware that this decision hadn't been discussed with the Eldar, but confident that they would comply with his wishes nonetheless. His words, however, seemed to catch Ramila off guard. As she paused in the midst of packing her scant belongings, her eyes widened in shock, and she couldn't help but blurt out to Ban, you won't be spending the night with me. Instantly regretting her lapse in judgment, she grimaced at her outburst. He's doing what? Rukyul's voice thundered through the scouter, echoing the shock and disbelief of everyone who heard it. Ban closed his eyes and muttered a quiet crap under his breath, knowing he had to address the situation head-on. Inhaling deeply, he steeled himself to be forthcoming with his friend. I've taken your sister as my partner. I had planned to discuss this with you in a more formal manner, but circumstances have led to this revelation now, Ban explained, his tone earnest yet tinged with apprehension. Way to announce it during a group chat. Aprit chimed in, amusement evident in his voice as he heard the unfolding drama. Meanwhile, Rukyul, who had been casually enjoying a meal in the palace of Argonas, was forced to hastily gulp down his food in shock, nearly choking on his surprise at Ramila's unexpected revelation. Frowning deeply, Rukyul directed his question not to Ban, but to Ramila herself. Are you truly happy with choosing him as your partner? He has already taken humans as his concubines, and I fear he may take more. We've discussed what happened before. His concern was evident in his tone, not stemming from judgment of Bann, but rather from a desire to protect his sister from potential heartache. The communication channel fell silent for a tense moment, the air thick with anticipation as everyone awaited Ramala's response. Finally, her voice broke the silence, her words firm and resolute. I am aware of the risks, but I have made my choice, she declared, her conviction unwavering. With her response, Rukul and everyone else on the channel understood that further inquiries were unwelcome. It was clear that Ramala had made her decision, and it was to be respected and accepted by all. Letting out a deep sigh, Rukul slumped back in his seat, his gaze fixed on his food with a sense of resignation. Well, I suppose congratulations are in order for the both of you. I look forward to seeing my nephews flying around soon, he remarked, the latter part of his statement accompanied by a wistful grin. As thoughts of families filled his mind, Rukul couldn't help but feel a pang of longing. Oh man, I hope our family is large, strong, and healthy, so that father and mother would be proud of us, he murmured to himself, his eyes misting over at the prospect of forming a new family, albeit far from the familiar lands of planet Vegeta. It was a dream that offered a brief respite from the deep regret and longing he harbored for those lost to Frisia's tyranny. Among the group, Rukul was the one most profoundly affected by Bann's revelations about the tragic fate of their race. He had chosen to keep this burden to himself, burying any hope of ever returning to the land of his birth or reuniting with his parents. Stop it, Aniki, or I'll swear I'll beat you up round and square when we see each other again. Ramala's embarrassed tone and the slight tremor in her voice snapped Rukul back to reality from his introspective thoughts. A gentle smile spread across his face as he listened to his sister's spirited retort. Meanwhile, Bann had long since deactivated his scouter, choosing instead to wait patiently alongside the Eldari craft. His keen eyes roamed over the ship's sleek lines, analyzing its design with a practiced gaze. With the ship assessed, his attention shifted to the various figures bustling around the hangar, each one a story waiting to be uncovered. As he observed the individuals moving about, Bann found himself intrigued by the diversity of faces and backgrounds. He wondered about the lives they led, the challenges they faced, and the dreams they harbored. For a while now, he had yearned to immerse himself in the everyday experiences of the inhabitants of this galaxy, to understand their struggles beyond the pages of Warhammer novels. I've spent so many years fixated on our existence in the Dragon Ball universe that I often forget about the reality of this galaxy, he mused inwardly. His attention was drawn to the cybernetic implants adorning many of the individuals, a stark reminder of the harshness of life in this unforgiving universe. Lost in his thoughts, Bann failed to notice the passage of time until the Eldari trio stood before him, bringing him back to the present moment with a start. Bann, can you hear me? The gentle voice of Eurocane pierced through Bann's reverie, prompting him to shake his head and focus on the helmeted visage of the warlock. Beside Eurocane stood Anaeth, her expression filled with concern as she observed Bann's unresponsiveness to their attempts at communication. Irene, her features concealed by the warrior helmet of Craftworld Mimira, also regarded Bann with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. With a wry smile, Bann hastily replied, "Yes, sorry about that. I was lost in thought for a moment." His explanation seemed to satisfy the Eldari, who nodded in understanding as they observed the clarity returning to the Syn's gaze. "What are you doing here? Is there something you wish to discuss?" Anaeth's soothing voice broke the silence, her gaze fixed intently on Bann's. Meeting her gaze, Bann nodded in affirmation. "Indeed, I neglected to mention this earlier, caught up in the moment as I was. But I desire to accompany you to your home and meet with this Farseer you've spoken of," he declared. His words hung in the air, causing not only Anaeth, but also the other two Eldari, to visibly freeze in surprise. Anaeth averted her eyes from Bann, directing her gaze instead to Eurocane, silently urging him to take control of the unexpected turn of events. Eurocane's face, concealed behind his helmet, betrayed a mixture of surprise, apprehension, and a faint hint of exasperation in response to Bann's request. "Although a meeting between the craft world and the Syns was inevitable, I fear this may be too sudden," Eurocane thought to himself, his mind racing with concerns about the potential repercussions of bringing Bann into their midst so abruptly. Having witnessed the Syns' formidable power and the fragile nature of their alliance, Eurocane harbored reservations about extending such trust so soon. However, instead of outright rejecting Bann's request, Eurocane gritted his teeth and decided to place his faith in the Farseer's judgment, taking a gamble on the potential outcomes of this unexpected event. "If my request has caused any discomfort, Eurocane, I understand, and I'm willing to wait for a more opportune time," Bann offered, his wry smile betraying his attempt to lighten the tense atmosphere. Shaking his head, Eurocane spoke with a gentle tone, reassuring Bann, "Your request, though sudden, is not troublesome. I would be honored to escort you to our home and introduce you to the esteemed and wise Nair Layak. I am certain he will be pleased to meet you." With a gesture towards the awaiting ship, and Irene opening the door to reveal the interior, Eurocane continued, "Please, make yourself comfortable. Although our journey will be brief, it will take a day's time. Rest assured, we will ensure your safety and comfort throughout the voyage." Bann subtly nodded his head in appreciation and turned towards the awaiting ship, his gaze shifting from Anaeth's surprisingly plump back to the open doors as he made his way inside, muttering a quiet "excuse me" as he passed. Close behind, Eurocane followed with a subtle smile playing on his lips. Though unexpected, something deep within him began to affirm that this was the right decision in response to Bann's request. Once inside the ship, Eileen provided a brief explanation of the accommodations, indicating the 2 rooms where they would be staying. With everyone settled in, she initiated the ship's engines before guiding it away from the space station. As the ship departed from the space station, thousands of glints scattered across the inky void, accompanied by the distant glow of the system's star. These celestial witnesses bore witness to the departure of the first Saiyan to travel beyond the confines of the planet he had once crashed upon. This event marked a pivotal turning point, ushering in a new chapter of uncertainty not only for the Saiyans and Eldari but for all beings intertwined with the fabric of fate itself. In the cockpit, Bann stood beside Eileen, watching with a mixture of curiosity and fascination as she expertly piloted the craft. The soft glow of the machinery and data cast a dim illumination across his face, which Anna observed with keen interest from her position nearby. Her own expression mirrored his, a smile gracing her lips as she absorbed his various expressions in raptness. Overseeing them all, Eurocane stood with a sense of quiet anticipation, his hands folded across his chest. He hoped that their journey would unveil the mysteries that awaited them and looked forward to the many meetings and encounters yet to come. Chapter 71, The Terrors That Harbor the Darkness. Ocasus, Acteron Sector, Segmentum Ultima, 991. M41. Boom, boom, boom. The sound of the sky's rumbling shattered the fragile peace that Nathaniel had managed to find in sleep. Dreams were his only refuge, a brief respite from the relentless horrors that reality seemed intent on sending towards his home. Beside him, his family stirred, awoken by the ominous sound. His little sister, nestled in his embrace, peered out from beneath the blankets, her bright but fearful blue eyes fixed on him as she asked, "Big brother, are those scary things again?" Her voice was tinged with innocence, a stark reminder of her tender age. Seeking solace in her brother's arms, she found comfort in the familiar embrace that had shielded her from the cruelty of the city's other children, who often taunted her for reasons beyond her control. Amidst the ashen strands of hair, a pair of fluffy white ears protruded. Nathaniel gently stroked the furry ears as he attempted to reassure his sister, mustering a facade of strength. "Do not worry, Sibylla. The Emperor will protect us, as will the sisters." Their modest home trembled under the relentless onslaught of Ocasus air defenses, sending tremors through the walls and scattering dust upon its inhabitants. Nathaniel reluctantly withdrew from his sister's side to glance towards the figure standing by the window, his father. A warm and simple man, he had provided a sanctuary of love and kindness for his children in a galaxy plagued by darkness. Such familial bonds were a rare and precious commodity in their tumultuous world. Despite his youth and innocence, Nathaniel could perceive the subtle shift in his father's demeanor, the once proud and sturdy shoulders now sagging under the weight of worry. His father's kind face bore clear signs of concern as he exchanged a silent glance with his wife. Nathaniel's mother, a woman with delicate Vulcan traits, often faced ostracism from the city's inhabitants. She drew closer to her husband, her worn clothes remnants of her family's past clinging tightly to her body as she sought solace and warmth in his embrace. Though their words were whispered, Nathaniel could discern the hushed tones from the frosty mist that escaped their mouths. Yet, the exact contents of their conversation remained veiled to his young senses, shrouded in an atmosphere of uncertainty and apprehension. Boom, boom, blam. As the cacophony of sounds from the besieged sky grew louder, Sibylla's body tensed, her complexion turning ashen with fear. Her eyes welled up with tears, overwhelmed by the heavy atmosphere that bore down on her young mind. Despite enduring the hardships until now without shedding a tear, the relentless onslaught proved too much for her to bear. With trembling hands, she clung tightly to her brother, finding solace in the reassuring rhythm of his heartbeat. Sensing her distress, Nathaniel's gentle touch found its way to her hair, his caress imbued with love and attention as he sought to provide her with comfort. Finding the familiar spot that always brought her solace, Nathaniel stroked her hair tenderly, offering her a sense of security amidst the chaos that surrounded them. "Stop your crying, it will be all right," Nathaniel's young voice, imbued with gentleness and tenderness, gently urged his sister. He had long ago absorbed the lessons imparted by his father about his responsibilities as the eldest sibling. Now, as he lay beside his sister, he fulfilled his duty with unwavering devotion, providing her with comfort and reassurance while their parents grappled with the uncertainties of their future. In the cold embrace of the night, amidst the intermittent rumblings of thunder, Nathaniel's mother's words pierced the air, laden with concern, anxiety, and a palpable sense of dread. "We must leave, Rayleigh. Our children cannot remain here." The weight of her words hung heavy in the air, freezing Nathaniel's small world in its tracks. His young mind struggled to comprehend the gravity of the situation, his heart quickening with realization. A cold sweat replaced the chill of the night as his body tensed with apprehension. Unable to bear the weight of the conversation any longer, Nathaniel's gaze shifted hastily away from his parents. In the dim glow of their modest home, he saw his father's weary visage, aged beyond his years by the burden of stress and anxiety that weighed heavily upon him. As Rayleigh beheld the sight of his two children, nestled together in an embrace of shared comfort and vulnerability, a tight knot constricted around his chest. His daughter, a mere 3 Terran years old, and his son, just 7, sought solace and warmth from each other, a duty that should have been fulfilled by him and his wife. Yet, they both remained vigilant sentinels in the night, unable to rest amidst the turmoil. His mind became a battleground, torn between fear, desperation, and rage, emotions that threatened to consume him whole. However, Rayleigh's rational and cunning side fought valiantly against these overwhelming forces, refusing to succumb to the injustices of fate that had dealt him this cruel hand. Despite all he had achieved and fought for in the Imperium, more than any man could ever dream of having, everything now hung in the balance, imperiled by the relentless advance of the Tyranids. The full brunt of the invasion had begun a few days ago, and while the city's defenses had proven effective in repelling the initial attacks, every citizen knew this assault couldn't be easily thwarted. Rayleigh eyed his wife once again, his voice hushed as he spoke, "But we cannot leave at the moment. You've heard the Vox speakers announcing the lockdown. If I ever put you all in danger by breaking it, I wouldn't forgive myself." His words revealed his deepest fears to the person he loved most. His wife's warm, comforting touch enveloped his cold, calloused hands. Her Vulpin golden eyes radiated love, tenderness, and calmness as she reassured him, "Only a clever man could have my heart, Rayleigh. I know and trust your mind can come up with something to help us in this situation." Her smile, though slight, conveyed a sense of calm assurance that Rayleigh found solace in. Yet it proved to be effective, as he let out a sigh that washed away the heavy feeling on his chest, his hands squeezing tightly in love towards Carmilla as he said to her, "At dawn, I'll be meeting with Gregor to see if he could help us. Let's rest now and wait until then." Carmilla nodded in response, finding some comfort in his words. Her troubled mind looked forward to a glimmer of hope amidst the grim fate that seemed to befall upon their world. Their conversation was overheard by their son, who could only gulp down his fears and force his eyes to seek solace in sleep amidst the cacophony of the night. As darkness and sleep embraced Nathaniel's mind, time passed swiftly, allowing him to rest another night. Nathaniel awoke to the hushed noise of his parents, his gaze drawn to them as he watched his father don his clothes tightly and kiss Carmilla on the lips before disappearing into the stormy winds outside. He saw his mother close the door behind him, her gaze fixed on his father's retreating figure through the swirling snow. Her heart brimmed with apprehension and anxiety as she watched him vanish into the white landscape. Remaining at the window, she stared out for what felt like an eternity before finally moving to the small kitchen to prepare breakfast for her children. Despite their meager provisions, her love and resourcefulness allowed her to create something amidst the few items in the cabinets. Her troubled mind found solace in the act of nurturing her children, pouring her deepest feelings into the preparation. As she hummed a song that Nathaniel always loved, a melody that brought him peace and joy, she hoped it would bring comfort to their hearts amidst the turmoil outside. Watching his mother's gentle movements as she prepared breakfast brought Nathaniel a fleeting sense of peace and normalcy, tears silently streaming down his face as he savored the brief respite after so many days of chaos. His gaze fixed on his mother's back, Nathaniel couldn't shake the words he had overheard her say the night before. The fear of losing not only their home but also his family weighed heavily on his young mind, his face paling with dread as his heart raced with anxiety. Unbeknownst to him, Sibylla had been awakened by his rapid heartbeat and lay silently beside him, her small arms wrapped around him in a comforting embrace. Though young, she showed remarkable wisdom beyond her years, offering her warmth as a source of solace for her distressed brother, just as he had done for her the night before. No words were needed as they found understanding in each other's presence, a silent bond of love and support amidst the uncertainty that loomed over them. As the dawn passed and the tears dried on Nathaniel's cheeks, a sense of calm settled over the small family. The gentle humming of Carmilla filled the air, comforting both Nathaniel and Sibylla as they lay in bed. With an affectionate smile, Carmilla greeted her children and beckoned them to the table for breakfast. She stole glances out the window, her heart filled with hope as she waited for Rayleigh's return. Just as Nathaniel and Sibylla were finishing their meal, the 2 hours since Rayleigh's departure had elapsed. Carmilla's eyes widened with relief as she spotted his familiar figure trudging through the snow, his steps hurried yet determined. Carmilla jolted from her seat and approached the door, her movements swift yet weighted with a sense of urgency. With a firm grip, she swung it open, revealing the figure of her husband, drenched from the relentless downpour outside. Without hesitation, she reached out to assist him, guiding him inside and swiftly beginning the task of removing his sodden garments, a ritual they had performed many times before in the face of harsh weather. Yet the man, his countenance etched with a grave solemnity, met her gaze with a piercing intensity as he spoke in a raspy voice, laden with urgency. "Gregor, he has informed me that the grand cathedrals are preparing ships for evacuation. If we act swiftly, we may secure passage and ensure the safety of our family." His eyes, a mosaic of emotions, sought to convey the gravity of their situation to Carmilla. The sights he had encountered on his journey back home served as a stark reminder of Carmilla's foresight and wisdom, far surpassing his own impulsive actions. Briefly glimpsing their children, who were now awake, he understood the necessity of concealing the gravity of the situation from them. Carmilla, taken aback by his revelation and his apparent distress, silently acknowledged his unspoken request and enveloped him in a tight embrace. In that moment, as their bodies intertwined, they found security each other's warmth, drawing strength from their shared bond to confront the incoming doom that loomed over them. Rayleigh, shutting out the outside world, surrendered himself to the comfort of his wife's embrace. As he buried his face in her hair, inhaling the familiar scent that he cherished, a sense of determination surged within him. He made a silent vow to protect the woman he cherished and the hearts that beat as one with hers, their children. In that fleeting moment of intimacy, he pledged to spare no effort in securing their safety and ensuring their passage aboard one of the evacuation ships. Having found solace in each other's embrace, Rayleigh turned his gaze towards his children, mustering the most tender and reassuring smile he could manage. "My dear children," he began, his voice a gentle melody of warmth and affection, "we are on the brink of an extraordinary journey. Prepare yourselves and gather your belongings, for your father is ready to lead you into the adventure of a lifetime." His words ignited a spark of excitement in the hearts of his children, their fears momentarily forgotten as they basked in the glow of his love-filled smile. With eager enthusiasm, they hastened to gather their belongings under their mother's watchful eye. As Rayleigh watched his children bustling about, a pang of heaviness weighed upon his heart. Yet, amidst the tumult of emotions, he remained resolute in his determination to shield them from the harshness of the impending trials. Closing his eyes momentarily, Rayleigh tilted his face towards the heavens, his silent prayer reverberating in the depths of his mind. "O God Emperor, ruler of Terra, grant me strength as I embark on this perilous journey. Protect my family from the encroaching darkness that threatens to engulf all that is sacred under your watchful gaze. I offer my soul and my resolve to your cause, grant me the fortitude to vanquish your enemies." As he opened his eyes, a fierce determination blazed within them, casting a fiery glow upon his features. Like polished mirrors, his grey eyes reflected the scene before him, the tableau of his beloved family, framed within the walls of the home he had painstakingly built with his own hands. The image seared itself into his consciousness, a poignant reminder of what he fought to protect. And in that moment, as his wife's tender smile washed over him, a sense of calm settled over Rayleigh's troubled soul, soothing the fears that threatened to consume him. With renewed resolve, he steeled himself for the trials that lay ahead, ready to confront the darkness head-on in defense of all that he held dear. He was ready to save his family. Chapter 72, Emotions. I've borne witness to something truly extraordinary. Although familiarity with the enigmatic and the wondrous was not foreign to me, the sight of our vessel forging a path through the webway, guided by Eurocane's psychic prowess, was unlike anything I had ever seen. It was a moment that seized my senses with wonder and anticipation. The labyrinthine expanse of the webway unfolded before us, its haunting beauty and eerie aura captivating my gaze. The towering walls, cloaked in a haze of ethereal fog and ancient materials, cast a spellbinding spell upon me. Yet beneath the surface allure, there lay a palpable sense of grandeur and decay, remnants of the once mighty Eldari Empire lingering in the shadows, now reduced to ruins with only a handful of survivors clinging to existence. As I gazed upon Eileen, Anaeth, and Eurocane, I discerned a sense of normalcy in their eyes. An intricate veil of ignorance shrouded their perception, shielding them from the profound majesty their race once commanded, and the unparalleled power and dominion they once wielded over the galaxy. It is a fate I would not wish upon us, but it seems inevitable for empires of this nature. I mused silently, haunted by the echoes of the Imperium of mankind in the 41st millennium. A mere shadow of its former glory, a mere shell clinging to survival amidst millennia of decay. Like the Eldari, they had sown the seeds of their own demise. And by their own hands, the Eldari have wrought ruin upon the webway, once a vast network of pathways now reduced to a twisted labyrinth, its roots severed and its gates sealed long ago. Within its shifting corridors, beasts of both the immaterium and reality lurk, awaiting unsuspecting prey. Yet as I peered through the windows of our vessel, I began to grasp how the Eldari had managed to endure through the ages. With Eurocane charting our course and Eileen reciting instructions from memory, we were set on our path. With a nod of acknowledgement, Eurocane retreated to a small chamber to meditate, leaving us to navigate the treacherous depths of the webway alone. As the silence settled around us, enveloping us in contemplation, I found myself unable to resist the urge to break it. With two Eldari companions at my side and a long journey ahead, my mind refused to remain idle, despite the weight of our impending tasks or lack thereof, in my case. At least in my case, I thought, casting a fleeting glance towards Eileen. "Hey, I've been curious," I began, my tone deliberate, drawing the attention of the two Eldari towards me. "There are rumors circulating about your nature, whispers that I've been hoping you could clarify for me," I continued, prompting both Anaeth and Eileen to turn their attention towards me, their pointed ears twitching with interest. Anaeth's mesmerizing gem-like eyes bore into mine as she eagerly inquired, "What is it?" Struggling to suppress the grin threatening to spread across my face, I posed the question directly to them. "Is it true that your race experiences emotions and sensations tenfold compared to humans?" As I awaited their response, I couldn't help but feel a surge of amusement at their reactions. Anaeth and Eileen both seemed taken aback, their bodies jolting slightly. Anaeth's expression was one of confusion, while Eileen, the stoic warrior piloting our vessel, appeared determined to maintain her focus. "What do you mean by that?" Anaeth queried tentatively, her voice tinged with genuine curiosity. "Well, tell me, is it true that, for instance, you experience grief more intensely than humans? Or any other emotion, for that matter?" I asked pointedly, directing my gaze downwards towards Anaeth's ample and visible cleavage, ensuring she caught my suggestive gesture. A flush spread across Anaeth's cheeks as she registered my innuendo, her mind connecting the dots. Before she could respond, however, Eileen interjected firmly. "We Eldari are indeed blessed with heightened empathy," she stated, her tone resolute. "Navigating the vast array of emotions is essential for an Asuriani to excel." Despite the coldness in Eileen's tone, I refused to be swayed and pressed on. "That's cool, but you haven't answered my question. Do you truly feel emotions more intensely? Describe it to me." "What it is cool?" Aneth's puzzled interjection broke the tension momentarily, her confusion evident. But my focus remained fixed on Eileen, who paused before responding. We do, she admitted after a moment, her voice carrying the weight of experience. In battle, I must rely on my training and the path to prevent myself from being consumed by the bloodlust that threatens to overwhelm my mind. As she turned her head to meet my gaze, I felt her stare bore into me, piercing through the layers of my being. As I listened to Eileen's chilling admission, a sense of unease settled over me. Her words painted a picture of a warrior teetering on the edge of darkness, grappling with impulses most would find abhorrent. And for those who insult us, for example, I must exert great restraint to prevent myself from inflicting upon them the most agonizing death imaginable, she declared before swiftly returning her gaze to the front of the ship. Despite her attempt to appear composed, I could sense the tension radiating from her, her body language betraying her true state of mind. Raising my eyes to meet the back of her head, I couldn't help but voice my genuine feelings on the matter. Wow, I exclaimed, my tone laced with consternation. I had intended to broach the subject of sex and relationships, but you've taken the conversation in a rather psychopathic direction. I never pegged you for a murder hobo. I couldn't help but smirk as Eileen visibly flinched at my words, a small sense of satisfaction washing over me. But it's reassuring to know that others also grapple with their emotions, I continued, my grin widening. We Syans too often find ourselves at the mercy of our feelings. I've made great efforts to instill discipline in my companions to prevent them from succumbing to battle frenzy, much like you. My gaze shifted between Eileen and Aneth as I spoke, catching a fleeting side glance from the warrior and a look of genuine intrigue from the healer. I'm not a murder hobo, Eileen muttered under her breath, her voice barely audible. Meanwhile, Aneth seized my arm with evident excitement, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. What other feelings do you often struggle against? She inquired eagerly, her enthusiasm for the topic both strange and infectious. Rage, excitement, and lust, I replied, my tone somber. Those are the emotions I've found myself struggling with if left unchecked. That's why I sought Eurocane's guidance to prevent such occurrences from becoming more frequent. Aneth nodded understandingly at my explanation, while I caught Eileen murmuring under her breath, we'll be damned if some of your friends fall into chaos. Her words struck a chord with me, prompting a nod of agreement. Exactly, I agreed wearily. I don't need to contend with a Saiyan influenced by chaos. Dealing with normal Saiyans is challenging enough as it is. I let out a heavy sigh, the weight of my responsibilities pressing down on me. Aneth's sensitive gaze met mine, her gemstones that could pry into one's soul brimming with concern. Is there something wrong with them? She asked softly, her attention focused solely on my words as if searching for answers within them. Aside from being literal monkeys. I disregarded Eileen's response. Taking a deep breath, I placed my hand over Aneth's on my arm and continued to explain. Saiyans are driven by a primal instinct for battle. It's ingrained in our very essence. We seek out challenges, constantly striving to test our limits and overcome opponents stronger than us. I could sense a myriad of emotions stirring within the Eldari as I spoke, but I pressed on. Although my comrades respect me for essentially raising them, it's my strength alone that has earned me their loyalty and command. I deliberately omitted mentioning Celery, knowing full well that she was the true powerhouse among us. Despite her unparalleled strength, she always deferred to my leadership, showing genuine care and respect for me since we were children. Aneth's grip on my arm tightened, her eyes ablaze with intensity as she delved deeper into the matter. But I can sense it, you care deeply about them, don't you? She probed gently. Her soothing voice and genuine scrutiny encouraged me to open up further. Yes, I do, I affirmed, my voice carrying a mixture of pride and affection. I've spent my entire life alongside them, watching them grow from mere children into the formidable warriors and individuals they are today. They bring honor to our race, and I hope they can bring some semblance of order to the chaos of this galaxy. As I spoke, my gaze wandered towards the path of the webway, my thoughts drifting unintentionally. The gravity of my words hung heavy in the air, leaving behind a whirlwind of emotions and reflections that I knew I would need to delve deeper into and organize during my meditations. Let us hope that you're right, and trust in what you've done, Aneth responded, her voice gentle and reassuring. What is nurtured with care will always bear good fruit. The kindness we show to others is never in vain. Her tender touch and radiant smile washed over me, calming my spirit. I found myself drawn once more to Aneth's presence, her warmth a balm to my weary soul. As I returned her smile gratefully, I couldn't help but reflect on how my initial intention to tease them had led to this heartfelt exchange. I just wanted to tease them, and it ended up like this. I mused silently to myself. If all Eldar are like you, I remarked to Aneth, then there's something I need to address regarding your reputation. It simply wouldn't do you justice. An audible groan escaped Eileen at my words, while Aneth tilted her head in confusion, prompting her to ask, what fame are you talking about? My grin widened as I sensed Aneth's tension, but I proceeded to reveal the truth to her nonetheless. They say you're insufferable cunts, too deeply entrenched in your own vanity. To put it nicely, that's it, I stated bluntly. Aneth's pout betrayed her dismay as she protested. Moo, come on, be serious. Is that truly our reputation? Eileen interjected, her voice cold yet tinged with subtle curiosity and other emotions. Raising my hands in a gesture of surrender, I replied to both of them, hey, don't shoot the messenger. Take it up with those who've interacted with other beings in the galaxy before. I'm just relaying what I've heard. My words seemed to weigh heavily on Aneth, who looked troubled by the reputation of her race. Deciding to lighten the mood, I continued teasing them. That's actually one of the reasons I wanted to ask you both this. Now tell me, have either of you ever been in a relationship before? My eyes darted between the two Eldari, barely containing the inner gossip within me. Do not answer him, Aneth, Eileen interjected hastily, her tone firm. Aneth, meanwhile, shifted uncomfortably, her eyes darting away from me as she asked coyly, why are you asking that? Observing Aneth's gaze fixed on the floor and sensing Eileen's reluctance to engage, I persisted, I was simply curious, you see. Because I also heard something that really piqued my interest. At my words, Aneth reluctantly met my gaze, her mouth moving as if struggling to form a question. Meanwhile, Eileen's shoulders tensed visibly, her neck muscles twitching as she seemed to exert considerable effort to refrain from turning around. Seeing that my choice of words and delivery had indeed piqued the interest of the two Eldari, I pressed on. A certain rumor has not only heightened my curiosity about your race, but also about how female Eldar perceive their relationships and express their emotions. Just spit it out, Saiyan, Eileen interjected sharply, unable to contain her impatience any longer. Grinning mischievously, I leaned in closer to the duo. Well, they say that female Eldar are rather clingy and crazy when it comes to showing their affection. I wonder if there's any truth to that. As I glanced between the two, I couldn't help but notice Aneth's flushed face, a clear indication that my words had struck a nerve. Casually, I reached out to caress Aneth's hand with my own, adding to the tension that hung in the air. Darting my eyes between the two of them. Well, I guess we might be. Aneth replied uncertainly, her eyes unable to meet mine. There's no way. I thought to myself as realization dawned upon me, looking at Aneth with surprise. You've never been in a relationship before? I asked her with sincere astonishment. She probably is older than me and she hasn't been with someone before? With how debauched these guys used to be. My mind was scandalized by the notion, while the red-faced healer seemed to answer my question without even saying so. Not being able to free her hand from my grasp, Aneth gave up trying and simply joined both her hands together. Well, I've been too occupied with my path that I've never explored and experienced what others did. Her tone was filled with genuine innocence and shyness, eliciting a twinge of guilt within me for teasing her so relentlessly. At least for a moment. Though my eyes briefly darted towards Eileen's back, pondering if the warrior too lacked experience, I refocused on Aneth. Leaning closer to her, I whispered reassuringly, hey, it's not that bad, really. Some guys even appreciate that. Aneth's cheeks flushed at my words, a faint smile playing on her lips as she seemed to take comfort in my reassurance. Her head lifted, and she peered into my face with a spark of hope ignited in her eyes, seemingly unfazed by our proximity. Really? What you said is true? She asked eagerly. I nodded enthusiastically, a grin spreading across my face as I assured her, if my words are laced with deception, may God damn my soul never be reborn again. It's not necessary to make an oath, you know. Aneth interjected hastily, a grin of her own appearing on her face as she teased me gently. Gently caressing her hand, I leaned closer to Aneth, my mouth mere inches away from her ear as I whispered softly, you know, I am one of those guys who really appreciate that. If you want, I can show you a lot of things and experience together everything you've missed so far. As my words registered in Aneth's mind, I felt a wave of emotion sweep over her, causing her to freeze in place. Even the creamy skin of her ear blushed furiously in reaction as I added, while also seeing if what they say about you all is true. Pulling back slightly, I gave her a playful wink, leaving her staring at me wide-eyed. Her entire face was flushed with embarrassment, her full lips slightly parted in astonishment. A deep, audible gulp emanated from her throat as she silently rose from her seat and made her way out of the cockpit. Well, I guess I took it too far, I chided myself inwardly, a wry smile playing on my lips as I watched the retreating figure of the healer. Meanwhile, Eileen remained silent, her gaze fixed ahead as the silence enveloped the cockpit. Several minutes passed by, during which I found a more comfortable seat and joined her in staring out at the scene. Eventually, I heard Eileen speak up, her voice breaking the silence. I used to have a partner once, she began, her tone tinged with a hint of nostalgia. We met during our training in the path, raised as warriors together. We faced countless foes, and experienced more than I could have ever dreamed of. Without turning her head from the path ahead, Eileen extended her arm to the side, revealing a red gemstone nestled in the palm of her armored hand. Now, this is all that is left of her. Always accompanying me, Eileen stated, her voice retaining its characteristic coldness but also carrying a subtle tremor beneath the surface. The quiver in her tone spoke volumes of the emotions she must be feeling, amplified by the stoic nature of her being and the memories she had been forced to bury deep within her to continue her duty as a warrior. With a tender gesture, she closed her palm around the gemstone, holding it tightly for a moment before returning her focus to piloting the ship. It was a silent tribute to her lost partner, a testament to the bond they once shared amidst the chaos of this galaxy. I found myself unable to muster any words in response, choosing instead to remain silent as I continued to accompany Eileen for the remainder of the journey. Her words and actions lingered in my mind, prompting a deep swirl of thoughts and emotions that invited reflection and contemplation. As I pondered her story and the weight of her solitary tribute, I realized that there was still much for me to experience and understand. In the face of such solemnity and quiet strength, even my bold arrogance seemed to shrink in respect. Chapter 73, Mimira. The Webway, Segmentum Ultima, 991M41. Throughout the day-long journey through the Webway, Bann stood steadfast beside Eileen, engaging in conversation and offering her companionship. Despite not possessing exceptional oratory skills and lacking a particularly affable demeanor, Eileen proved to be a kindred spirit for Thomas, the human that Bann once was. Their discussions delved into millennia-old lore and mundane details rarely mentioned in the Warhammer 40,000 novels he frequently perused. Bann found unexpected enjoyment in their exchanges, discovering a wealth of knowledge and perspectives he had never encountered before. Likewise, Eileen was pleasantly surprised by the depth of Thomas's insights, finding her initial misgivings about his character dispelled by his charismatic and eager attitude. As their dialogue unfolded, she found herself swept away by the diverse range of topics he effortlessly broached, each conversation revealing new facets of his personality and experiences. She found the once dreadfully boring and tedious travel now engaging and enjoyable, the hours slipping away unnoticed as she conversed with Bann. Their dialogue was so absorbing that they only became aware of Eurocane and Anaetha's arrival when the pair joined in the ever-increasing chatter. Bann's eager and witty mind proved to be the most captivating source of entertainment for the Eldari. Shaped by the rigorous path they followed, they saw in him a whirlpool of emotions and opportunities for learning or teaching. In his case, his curiosity, even about the smallest and seemingly unimportant details, led the trio to contemplate the minutiae of their own lives as they endeavored to satisfy his thirst for knowledge. Each query sparked discussions that delved deeper into their own experiences and perspectives, enriching their understanding of themselves and each other. As they neared the end of their journey, the previously relaxed and friendly atmosphere aboard the ship was abruptly shattered by the data displayed on Eileen's panels. Dozens of ships were converging on their location, their signatures unmistakably belonging to the craft world Mimira. However, the absence of any communication on the channels left the warrior puzzled and uneasy. Bann's diversion of their focus, coupled with their growing familiarity with his presence, caused Eurocane to forget to announce their impending arrival beforehand. The entire craft world stirred as explorers and guards alike beheld the sight of a colossal sun hurtling towards their position at breakneck speed through the Webway. Bann's hewn spirit, radiant and powerful like a supernova, instilled fear in more than one heart within Mimira, sparking a sense of dread and anticipation of impending catastrophe. In response to the imminent threat, the craft world swiftly dispatched a scouting team while preparations were made aboard the planetoid-sized vessel to evacuate from their current position in real space. These actions were undertaken with a sense of urgency and preemptive caution, as the looming danger cast a pall over the once serene surroundings. It was only when Eileen and Eurocane made their presence known and stated their purpose, that they were escorted towards the craft world under the watchful gaze of the numerous ships encircling them. Despite their assurances and explanations, the tension in the air was palpable, with the specter of uncertainty looming over their every move. In the silence that enveloped the cockpit of the ship, the four occupants strained their eyes to peer ahead into the passage of the Webway, their breaths caught in their throats. As the walls of the Webway morphed around them, forming a circular aperture, while every second stretched into seemingly minutes. Bann's eyes fixed on the image of space beyond the portal, its appearance akin to a distorted reflection in a murky mirror, surrounded by an ethereal glow. The escorts at the forefront were the first to traverse the threshold, their ships vanishing from the Webway as they transitioned into reality. Soon after, Eileen, Eurocane, and Bann followed suit, stepping into the unknown with a sense of trepidation and wonder. For Bann, the experience was once again indescribable, as the boundary between the Webway and reality blurred, transporting them into a realm where the laws of physics and perception seemed to bend and warp with each passing moment. As Bann's body traversed the pocket within the Imperium that was the Webway, he felt a sensation akin to being stretched and compressed simultaneously, his consciousness expanding outward like the brilliant burst of a supernova. His ki, a manifestation of his inner power, overlapped with the vast expanse of the galaxy he now found himself in, extending hundreds, if not thousands, of light-years away from Faradras. Before he could fully immerse himself in the extraordinary experience of transitioning between the Webway and reality, his eyes beheld a sight beyond anything he could have ever imagined. Standing before him was a marvel of engineering, a sight that defied the boundaries of his most recondite and deep-seated imagination. Glimmering with its own ethereal light, the craft world Mimira commanded the void with its imposing presence. Spanning easily the size of a satellite, it loomed before him, its pale teal hue standing out amidst the endless expanse of space. As Bann gazed upon the colossal vessel, he couldn't help but be struck by its grandeur. The light from the system's star cast contrasting shadows over the ship's immense frame, which could easily dwarf entire continents of Earth. Its silhouette, reminiscent of an intricate and ornamental dagger, was adorned with dozens of spherical structures raised around its perimeter. The architecture of the craft world was undeniably Eldari in design, boasting sharp and sleek edges that exuded a sense of elegance and sophistication. Thousands of small dots hovered around the behemoth, while larger orbs escorted it, their movements graceful and purposeful. Millions of lights adorned the starry canvas of space, their collective glow illuminating the body of the craft world and casting a mesmerizing spectacle that seemed to transcend the boundaries of mere mortal comprehension. As Bann stood frozen in place, his mind and body unable to comprehend the enormity of what lay before him, he couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and disbelief wash over him. Here, in this moment, he beheld a small glimpse of what once was the mighty Eldari Empire, a fleeting reminder of the glory that had long since faded into myth and legend. The realization hit him like a thunderbolt. What he saw before his eyes was nothing but a mere merchant ship of the fallen empire, refurbished to accommodate the dwindling population of the Asuryani and the remnants of the Eldar. Yet, despite knowing this fact intellectually, the sheer magnitude of the craftworld's presence left him speechless. How the hell could they build such a thing? His scandalized thought finally found its voice, echoing through his gobsmacked consciousness as he struggled to process the overwhelming shock of witnessing such an incredible feat of engineering. "We are finally here," came the muttered words of Eurocane, breaking through the stunned silence and bringing Bann back to the present moment. The sound of Eirleen's voice, engaged in conversation with individuals aboard the craft world, filled the background, serving as a stark reminder of the reality of their situation. With permission granted for landing, albeit after a lengthy discussion between Eirleen, Eurocane, and the authorities on the craft world, their vessel closed the distance, drawing nearer to the imposing structure until it dominated their field of vision entirely. As they approached, Bann's key senses gradually began to decipher the myriad signatures within the craft world. Among them were individuals whose power levels clearly surpassed even Eurocane's, though the exact number eluded Bann without activating his scouter. Nevertheless, he knew instinctively that these were beings not to be trifled with. "I was really underestimating the power of the Eldari," Bann thought to himself, his mind processing the implications of the overwhelming presence surrounding them. Not only is their technology formidable, but their strength as well. With these numbers and the radiance of their spirit, it's no wonder they've managed to survive until now, even after the fall of their empire. With a serious expression etched upon his face, Bann turned his gaze towards the entrance of the craft world, mentally preparing himself for whatever challenges lay ahead. As Bann's thoughts swirled around the impending meeting with the Farseer who foresaw their rise, he couldn't help but feel a sense of trepidation creeping over him. How should he conduct himself in their presence? What actions should he take? His change in countenance did not go unnoticed by Eurocane, who observed Bann's demeanor with a knowing nod. Though Bann was generally approachable compared to his fellow Syans, Eurocane understood the importance of showcasing proper etiquette in the presence of the Eldari. With a sense of determination, Bann resolved to approach the meeting with respect and deference, understanding the significance of the opportunity before him. Despite the uncertainty that lingered in his mind, he knew that presenting himself with grace and diplomacy was crucial in establishing a positive rapport with the Farseer and their people. And judging by how alert they've been until now, it's safe to assume they won't take him lightly and will be cautious around him. Just like he wants it. Eurocane reflected, a smirk playing across his lips. Having spent time alongside Bann and observed his actions back in Faradraz, Eurocane had begun to recognize some of the Syan's quirks. Among the many traits that made Bann an intriguing individual in Eurocane's eyes was his penchant for keeping others on their toes, his unpredictable nature adding an element of excitement to their interactions. As their craft passed through the energy barrier separating the void from the atmospheric interior of the craft world, they beheld a scene below decks that spoke volumes about the Eldari's preparedness. Rows upon rows of craftworld guards stood at attention, alongside countless warriors led by the Autarch's individuals who had delved so deeply into the warrior path that they had become lost within it. All eyes in the hangar bay were fixed upon the three formidable figures standing at the center of the formation. Among them, the one positioned in the middle commanded the most attention, adorned in regal garb befitting a Farseer, with intricate ornaments and equipment that spoke to his formidable abilities. Taller than his companions, he exuded an aura of authority and wisdom that demanded respect. Eurocane's countenance shifted into one of utmost reverence as he recognized the figure before them. Belanath, the leading Farseer of the craft world Mimira, stood as their master and leader amidst the dark times that loomed over them. "Prepare to descend, and mind your manners and actions," Eurocane reminded his companions, his tone cold and authoritative. With a sharp nod, he gestured for them to follow as he made his way towards the door of the craft, his solemn demeanor setting the tone for the rest of the group. Anath cast a brief glance at Bann before stepping closely behind Eurocane, while Eirleen finished landing the craft and powered down the engines. With a deep sigh, Bann gathered his resolve and walked forward, following in Eurocane's footsteps until he reached the two Eldari standing before the craft's door, patiently awaiting his arrival. Positioning himself beside Eurocane, Bann stood in the middle of their formation, feeling the weight of their expectant gazes upon him. With a nod from Eurocane, signifying his readiness, Bann watched as Eurocane deftly manipulated the control panel at the side of the doors, decompressing the ship and lowering the ramp for them to descend upon. A cool breeze washed over Bann's body as he stepped onto the ramp, the artificial illumination of the craft world causing him to squint against its brightness. As they moved forward, surrounded by guards whose weapons were poised and ready, Bann felt the weight of their watchful gazes upon him. Their faces obscured by battle helmets, their teal and blue armor gradient matched that of Eurocane and Eirleen, who walked closely behind in hurried steps. The insignia of Mimira, resembling an eye to Bann, was prominently displayed on their armor and other adornments, serving as a testament to their allegiance and loyalty. As Bann's eyes adjusted to the light, he took in the surroundings. The towering roof loomed hundreds of meters above them, while a large domed window provided a glimpse of the void beyond. The grandeur of the craftworld's architecture left him in awe, always reminding him of the advanced civilization that the Eldari once were. Bann took note of the smooth surfaces of the buildings and walls that surrounded them after exiting the expansive hangar bay. There are various snipers hiding around, he observed briefly after his initial scan. The wariness displayed by their hosts did not unsettle him, rather, he found it both expected and understandable given his own capabilities. After all, he made no effort to conceal his ki, fully aware of its radiant intensity and the effect it had on those who encountered it. His mere presence had been known to make daemons cower in fear within the Imperium, a fact that both intrigued and unnerved him in equal measure. But here, in the physical realm of the craft world, he remained undaunted, prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead with resolve and determination. Bann's gaze shifted towards the three figures clad in traditional Farseer attire, their entourage trailing behind them in a display of deference and respect. Though their faces were obscured by helmets, he could sense the intensity of their scrutiny piercing through every inch of his being. With a proud flourish, Bann unfurled his tail from around his waist, the symbol of his Saiyan heritage. Meeting the deep gazes of the Eldari with a steady stare, he allowed his ki to pulse in a low, humming tone, resonating like a heartbeat throughout the space around him. For a brief moment, every being present felt the palpable energy of his ki wash over them, a silent declaration of his presence and power, before he retracted it back within himself. The effect of Bann's display was palpable, as the already tense atmosphere seemed to intensify with each passing moment. Nervous eyes now lingered on him, and the tension in the air became so thick it could be cut with a knife. Breaking through the stifling atmosphere, Eurocane cleared his throat and spoke, his voice carrying a weight of reverence and deference as he addressed the figures before them. His eyes darted between Nairlayak and Belanath as he began, I am honored to receive your presence upon my return, alongside my companions and our new friend. His hand gestured towards Bann as he spoke. Continuing, Eurocane added, we are truly glad to see you all, Farseer Belanath, Master Nairlayak, and esteemed Ivrat Fair. Your presence after our long journey is a heartwarming sight. With each word, Eurocane's gestures and posture exuded respect and deference, acknowledging the authority and importance of the Eldari leaders before them. As Eurocane received small nods from the three Farseers, their unwavering gazes remained fixed on Bann's towering figure. Despite not being as tall as some of the Eldari present, Bann's broad and powerful physique stood out conspicuously among the crowd, drawing attention like a beacon in the darkness. The sight of his swaying tail elicited deep frowns from some observers, further accentuating his presence in the room. Breaking through the tension, a sharp and wise voice cut through the air, answering Eurocane's words. As I told you before, we would meet again, and in a fortuitous encounter at that, with good news. Isn't that why you're here today, Warlock Eurocane Rain? Nairlayak stepped forward, his hands moving in a gentle and soothing manner as he addressed Eurocane with a calm authority. Nairlayak's gaze finally shifted away from Bann, moving to meet the eyes of Anaeth and Eileen, whose expressions and demeanors seemed to hold a hint of transformation compared to what he had observed before. Just as he had expected. With deliberate movements, Eurocane began to remove his helmet, revealing his features beneath. As he let out a deep sigh, his black hair, tied in a ponytail, flowed freely behind his shoulders, swaying gently in the breeze. I have indeed brought good news with me, Eurocane responded, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. Although our presence here today is also one of urgency. Following Eurocane's lead, Eileen also removed her helmet, her actions imbued with a sense of respect and deference. As her white hair, cut in a bob cut, cascaded around her face, the wind teased it, causing it to flutter gracefully in the air. As Anaeth stared at the ground meekly, feeling intimidated by the imposing presence of the individuals before her, her thoughts swirled in her head. She couldn't help but feel conflicted as she eyed the familiar sights of her home, grappling with a mix of emotions. Nairlayak's question cut through the tension, his subtle grin hidden from view as he addressed Eurocane. What could possibly be so urgent for you to come here and mention it before the good news that you carry? It may perhaps be tied with the individual at your side. His gaze shifted towards Bann, who met his stare with a steady gaze of his own. Nodding solemnly, Eurocane replied, it has indeed. The reason why we're here is closely tied to the good news I bring. With purposeful strides, he walked forward and, with a sweeping gesture of his right arm, presented Bann to the assembled group. Allow me to present to you all the ruler of Faradras, Redentor, and Harbinger of Doom, he who greets with fire, Bann of the Saiyans, our ally and friend. Eurocane's words thundered through the hangar bay, commanding the attention of everyone present. All eyes turned towards Bann as he stepped forward with a powerful and resounding stride. With a confident grin on his lips and a glint of danger in his eyes, Bann exuded an aura of charisma and wit. His deep voice, a stark contrast to Eurocane's gentle tone, sent shivers down the spines of those who listened as he spoke. It is a pleasure to meet you all, he began, his words carrying weight and authority. I am honored to be received in such a manner in the craft world Mimira. Like Eurocane said, I am Bann, and I am here to discuss important matters with you all. Bann's words, presence, and voice left more than one person trembling at his presentation. His bright spirit shone with a fervent blaze that reminded the Farseer of another radiant figure amidst the Imperium. Yet, it was Bann's smile and words that set the gears turning in Belanath's mind. Meanwhile, Nairlayak could barely contain his own smile as he witnessed the grandeur of the man he had seen in his visions. An historic meeting had taken place, marking the first encounter between the heads of two powerful factions in the galaxy, the Saiyans and the Eldari of Craftworld Mimira. Chapter 74, A Powerful Embasser. IX-167 System, Ultima Segmentum, 991 M41. After relocating their meeting to a more welcoming and comfortable environment, Bann found himself immersed in the sheer beauty and tranquility of life within one of the craft worlds. It was akin to stepping into a utopia, a place where peace and harmony reigned supreme. As he wandered through the serene surroundings, Bann couldn't help but be captivated by the myriad thoughts swirling in his mind. The gazes of passers-by held a mixture of intrigue, curiosity, and apprehension, yet he allowed himself to be swept away by the subtle power play orchestrated by the Farseers as they guided him through the magnificence of their home. The landscape was a unique blend of natural beauty and meticulous craftsmanship, with vibrant colors and fantastical imagery casting shadows upon carefully adorned rocky paths. Intricately carved fences lined the walkways, serving as masterpieces of Eldari craftsmanship and a testament to their dedication to enhancing their surroundings. Throughout the landscape, figures and statues dotted the path, while hundreds of Asuryani practitioners engaged in peaceful meditation, each following their respective paths above them. The sky shimmered with its own radiant light, adding to the ethereal atmosphere of the craft world. With each passing moment, Bann felt his breath taken away by the breathtaking beauty that surrounded him within the craft world. Time seemed to pass in a blur as they made their way through the mesmerizing scenery, until they finally arrived at a wall-less structure crafted with sleek elegance. The pillars, adorned with an ivory hue, bore intricate inscriptions in the ancient Eldari language, depicting myths of old. As they stepped onto the floor, Bann's gaze was drawn to the image deeply etched into its surface, an avatar, clad in a brilliant mix of hues ranging from soft grays to onyx, blues, and opals. Above them, the roof stretched like a dome, adorned with vivid paintings depicting the story of unknown warriors, guided by the avatar's hand as they faced their foes. The space was vast, welcoming, and grandiose, with the three Farseers moving with elegant grace towards their predetermined positions. Meanwhile, the guards positioned themselves around them in a carefully planned formation, ready to ensure the safety and security of their leaders. As the companions of the Eldari gathered around the three Farseers, their eyes lingered on Bann with deep interest, studying his every move. Noticing the 4 cushions laid out on the floor, each large enough to accommodate one person, they made their way towards them and took their seats. Bann sat with both legs sprawled to the side, his hands folded in front of his chest. His muscular thighs, reminiscent of the torso of a nearby guard, exuded strength as he sat before the Farseers. The Eldari observed him intently, taking in his visage with keen interest. Meanwhile, the Eldari trio that accompanied Bann displayed a higher level of etiquette and respect towards the figures seated in front of them. Their gestures and actions spoke volumes, earning approving nods from the witnesses gathered in the room. The air hung heavy with a tense silence as each side measured the other. Bann's posture radiated confidence and calmness, unfazed by the subtle actions taken by the Farseers to unsettle him. Though not particularly fond of power plays and politics, Bann found himself unaffected by them, instead appreciating the intricacies of others' manipulations. In the face of power, might was the only language that truly resonated. Breaking the stillness, the sharp and throaty voice of Farseer Nihilus echoed through the room, signaling the start of the conversation. Now that we have attained the rightful vantage to converse on such matters, pray enlighten us, what dire urgency compels your presence this day? His gaze then shifted towards Eurocane as he posed the final inquiry, and what prompted your omission of forewarning? Although Eurocane felt a wry smile tugging at his lips, he maintained a stoic expression as he spoke. It was an errant folly on my part, Farseer, one for which I humbly apologize and pledge shall not recur. His words seemed to have little effect on the 3 figures before him, yet he pressed on nonetheless. We have convened this day with the intent of securing a transport vessel for our esteemed comrade here. Their world, beset by the insidious far-ranging hunger, suffered a temporary setback, and they seek. Eurocane's speech was abruptly halted by a gesture from Bann's hand. With a nod of acknowledgement to Eurocane, Bann interjected, I am here to request your aid, merely for transportation to a specific location. While we possess the means, we have yet to construct our ships and journey into the stars. Though unintended, due to the peculiarities of the Eldari language, Bann's words flowed like a melodic song. Yet the intonation, much like his presence, carried a commanding and overbearing resonance. A subtle detail that did not escape the notice of those present, an uncanny fluency in the Eldari language exhibited by the clear Zeno speaker. While the use of Eldari words was often unnecessary, witnessing the stark contrast in Bann's linguistic proficiency proved intriguing for some and drew the utmost attention of others. Forgive me if I err, but did you not arrive upon our home aboard one of our vessels already? What further acquisition do you seek? Nihilus inquired, his tone laced with intrigue. While he was open to considering Bann's requests, his primary duty was to his home. Bann regarded the Farseer's helmet thoughtfully before responding, his tone patient yet firm. We have indeed arrived aboard one of your vessels, but it is not large enough to accommodate the number of people we need to transport, nor is it equipped to withstand the kind of action that awaits us on the planet we seek to reach. His words stirred a sense of mystery and intrigue among the listeners. One of the Farseers, Ivrat Fair, couldn't help but feel a surge of curiosity as she listened to Bann's response. And how many individuals do you anticipate transporting? Are they of your own kin? She inquired, casting a sidelong glance towards Nihilus. Although briefed on the identity of the alien seated before her, Ivrat harbored numerous doubts in her mind. She approached the situation with caution, wary of offending the man while maintaining a careful demeanor. Unconsciously, a smirk crept across Bann's face as he responded earnestly to her inquiry. No, they are not of my kin. They are human soldiers from the Imperium of mankind. We anticipate transporting around 1,000 or so. His words and gesture elicited a deep frown from the Eldari, who struggled to conceal the sheer disgust provoked by his revelation. Murmurs erupted among the gathered assembly as the commanding voice of Farseer Belanath resonated for the first time. And why should Mimira heed your plea when it appears you aid our adversaries? His words were succinct, yet carried an undertone of inquiry. Eurocane appeared ready to respond to the inquiry, but Bann intervened, his voice firm and resolute. Because I need to rid my planet of a scourge. The recent Tyrannid attack has left their ships incapacitated, trapping them on my world. Meanwhile, I seek to mete out Saiyan retribution upon the Tyrannids besieging the Imperium's planet. The last part of his words dripped with venom and fury. As he spoke, Bann's body trembled with anticipation, his mind conjuring images of destruction wrought upon every single bioform. The Eldari present observed the exchange with a sense of deep contemplation, sensing the sincerity behind Bann's desire for vengeance and the truth in his words. Maintaining a stoic demeanor, Farseer Ivrat directed her inquiry towards Bann. And pray, enlighten us, Bann, what does Mimira stand to gain from this proposition? All I perceive is the prospect of relinquishing one of our vessels, filling it with our foes, dispatching it towards a besieged planet under our adversary's dominion, with scant likelihood of retrieval and survival for its crew. Upon hearing her words, Bann broke eye contact with the Farseers and exchanged a silent glance with Eurocane, his raised brow conveying a silent question. Without the need for words, Eurocane understood the unspoken inquiry posed to him. Clearing his throat, Eurocane took it upon himself to respond. The alliance between the Saiyans and Mimira has been forged amidst the crucible of combat and the hope of a radiant dawn. I deem this gesture to be a token of confidence extended from our kin to our esteemed allies, he declared, nodding towards Nayarlayak. His words prompted the onlookers to exchange uncertain glances, their gazes lingering on Bann as they assessed the intensity of his resolve. Before Nayarlayak could interject with his own scheming words, Farseer Belanath intervened, directing a questioning gaze towards Nayarlayak. I was not apprised of any intention to forge an alliance with beings from another celestial sphere, merely briefed on a potential encounter that could alter our fortunes. Speak, Nayarlayak, is there something you wish to disclose? As the air thickened once again, a chill ran down the spines of many upon hearing the cold words spoken by their leader. Composing himself, Nayarlayak removed his helmet with care, revealing his brown hair, intricately braided like a crown, flowing down to his shoulders. His face was sharp, his features alien yet somehow handsome. But it was his eyes that captured everyone's attention. A glint of mystery shimmered within them, drawing the gaze of all who beheld him. Staring at Bann for a couple of seconds, he moved his gaze towards Belanath before saying, I, too, have been troubled by the sudden onset of visions afflicting our people, portents of an ominous future only redeemable by the intervention of an enigmatic entity. Amidst my many meditations, I stumbled upon a glimpse of what is to come, a tapestry woven with countless threads, revealing itself to me for the first time. His gaze shifted once more toward Bann as he continued his exposition, soaring across distant realms, unleashing flames from the heavens upon our foes. He was there, shielding our brethren dwelling beyond our craftworld's embrace, his visage recurrent amidst the most dire of crises aboard the vessels of our allies. His name resounding in triumphant choruses, all made possible by the actions of a singular individual. As his gaze lingered briefly on Anaeth, Nayarlayak's eyes then returned to settle on Bann. Upon learning of his whereabouts, I directed the warlock Eurocane, the warrior Arlene, and the healer Anaeth to rendezvous with this Saiyan, to encounter the one who shall aid us all in our most desperate hours yet to come, he declared, his voice steady as he addressed Belanath, whose countenance remained impassive behind his helmet. Before anyone could interject, Bann spoke once more, his voice filled with determination. I could stand and hear your words all day, as I find the intricacies of diplomacy interesting and compelling. However, I came here expecting something, and I am willing to offer something in exchange if it's possible. My only request is that this matter be resolved swiftly, so that we may return and proceed as soon as possible. His deep voice, resonating with authority, alongside the subtle intonation of command, made more than one grimace in discomfort. Yet, despite the unease it elicited, Belanath stared at Bann with a rapt expression as he asked him, and what is it that you offer in exchange? Raising one finger over his folded arms, Bann's smile widened as he confidently replied, just pick one enemy of yours to be disposed of, and I'll see it done after I return. No army, fleet, or world shall stand again once I finish. Just one of us is necessary to get the job done. His words, coupled with his confident demeanor and the dangerous glint in his eyes, forced many to inhale sharply, while others shuddered at the threatening aura that enveloped the whole craft world. The hearts of more than one veteran warrior thundered like drums after feeling his ki flaring, while the uncomfortable sensation of witnessing an apex predator made itself present. Their eyes were poised with alarm over his seemingly calm figure, sensing the underlying threat he exuded. Yet, the Farseers knew better than others. With their ability to pry between the immaterium and reality, they witnessed the horror and menace that Bann represented, affirming the sincerity behind his words. Timing perfectly to add more shock to the scene, Eurocane retrieved a piece of crystal from his pocket and made it levitate towards Belanath. The crystal revealed, for everyone to hear, I have meticulously documented the deeds and prowess of our allies, serving as corroborating evidence for the veracity of Bann's assertions. Yet, I also attest as a witness that his words harbor no intent to deceive any among you. Eurocane's body posture, coupled with his intonation, conveyed the truthfulness of his words, enveloping the room in a solemn atmosphere. As Belanath received the crystal in the palm of his hands, a flicker of light danced over his helmet, scanning the information contained within while his eyes absorbed every detail. For a couple of minutes, the room remained in silence, awaiting the decision of their leader. With each pulse of Bann's key, the tension in the air heightened, hitching breaths and causing more than one individual to gulp down in anxious anticipation. For what seemed like an eternity, Belanath deliberated over his decision before finally making it known. Your race seems to prove to be indeed an outstanding and helpful ally. Mimira has battled alone long enough for me and my brothers to remain steadfast and resolute in accepting such a fortuitous encounter. I accept your request and also take your words as a pledge. After you return victorious, I personally will task you with defeating one of our foes. Standing from his seat, Belanath approached Bann and extended his hand, prompting Bann to rise and meet him in a firm grip. As they shook hands, Belanath spoke with a solemn tone. It is a great honor for me, as the Farseer of Mimira, to declare that our craft world and the Shone race are now allies and friends. May you endure for many cycles, Bann, to witness with us the bountiful harvest born of our union this day. Returning the Farseer's smile, Bann added confidently, likewise, Farseer, I can assure you that you have made the best decision today. With hundreds of witnesses and an artist capturing the historic moment, a jubilant and ceremonious atmosphere filled the building as discussions ensued. The first journey had not only proved fruitful but had also opened a realm of possibilities for Bann and the Shones, a realization that would soon dawn upon him.